Yo, Atlas speaking, and welcome to part 2 of What If I Was Reincarnated in the Naruto universe as the Uchiha's Genjutsu Demon. Let the tale begin. Chapter 31, Mizuki's Nightmare. It was the first time Yami had turned on his Sharingan, and all his classmates including Neji were fascinated by it. Neji had heard that the Sharingan was much stronger and offense-based as compared to the Byakugan. But now seeing those red eyes for the first time shocked him to a certain extent. Even Hiruzen was shocked to see that Yami had 2 Tomo already. He gave the signal to start. Mizuki, who was looking at Yami's eyes, suddenly felt the soil under his feet turn completely black. As he saw the surroundings, he saw that he was standing near a volcano. Mizuki could feel the heat the volcano was emitting. I have never visited a volcano, so it is going to be harder for me to spot the mistake and break the Genjutsu, Mizuki thought as he was looking around. Suddenly he felt as if something was moving under the soil, but it wasn't a single thing but multiple of them. Is this some animal that roams under the ground? He decided to move a bit far from the volcano as it might reduce the heat he was feeling on the skin. But just as he took his first step, a skeleton hand appeared from under the ground and grabbed his ankle. He tried to free his leg, but the hand won't let go. He kicked the skeleton's hand with his other leg and freed himself. He started to run in the opposite direction, and after a few seconds, he tripped and fell. He was about to get up when a pungent smell assaulted his nose. It smells like decayed flesh, Mizuki thought when he saw that 2 hands grabbed his legs. This time they weren't just skeletons, but they had some flesh on it. They looked like the hands of a zombie. Mizuki tried to get up, but a few more hands appeared and held his shoulders. This made Mizuki lie on the ground helpless. He wanted to say something, but a hand blocked his mouth. The flesh on the hand smelled so rotten that Mizuki felt like he was locked in a coffin with a half-decayed corpse. Mizuki felt something happening on his left, so he turned his head to the side with much difficulty, only to see the soil there sinking a little on its own. He then saw someone crawling out of it. It was a skeleton, but some parts of it still contained flesh on it. The skeleton had a few ornaments on her body, a couple of rings on her fingers, and a few gold necklaces. She must have been a queen or something. That was the thought that came to Mizuki's mind. Not a lot of time had passed since the start of the Genjutsu, but Mizuki's mind was slowly starting to believe that it was real. He saw the zombie queen come out of the ground completely. Her ribs were exposed and flesh was hanging on some as if it was half-eaten. Mizuki saw that there was a black heart inside the rib cage of the queen. The black heart was beating and a kunai was stabbed into it. The zombie queen came closer to Mizuki, who was held on the ground. While she was walking, Mizuki could hear the clacking sounds of her bones. She stood beside Mizuki looking down at him and then proceeded to sit on Mizuki's stomach. She held the kunai which was stabbed in her black heart and pulled it out. Mizuki saw a kunai in her hand and the tip was covered with black liquid. Mizuki was terrified and his mind was collapsing with every passing second. The zombie queen stabbed the kunai in Mizuki's throat, but instead of feeling pain, Mizuki came out from the Genjutsu. The first thing he saw was Yami's Sharingan. Mizuki's body was covered in sweat and he was shivering. He couldn't balance himself and fell to the ground. Tanaka and Irika quickly went up to him, seeing him in such a sorry state. As they crouched down to check Mizuki's condition, they saw him covered in sweat and breathing heavily. He was murmuring something repeatedly. Irika went closer so that he could hear what Mizuki was saying. D.K kill me. D.eat me. Irika looked at Yami and asked, what kind of Genjutsu did you put him in? Everyone wanted to know the answer to this, as an academy student leading the teacher in such a state with only a Genjutsu was unheard of. Even Yami's classmates looked at Yami in an expression of utter shock and awe while thanking themselves that they never got in Yami's way, or they would have ended up in a worse state. Such a strong Genjutsu reminds me of that kid Shursui Danzo thought. I just used a simple Genjutsu making him see skeletons trying to catch him. Yami shrugged. So cruel was the thought going to everyone's head. This kid didn't name the Genjutsu and he doesn't even look tired, which means he must have used his own imagination or some Genjutsu from the Uchiha or Yuhi clan. Hiruzen thought while stroking his beard. He looked at Shikaku, who nodded and left the training ground. Half of the objective is complete. Now I have to do the rest half all alone. What a drag. Shikaku sighed while leaving Irika. How is his condition? Hokage-sama, he will be fine with a one-night's sleep. I will have someone take him to the hospital. Irika said, and two people wearing flak jackets picked up Mizuki and left. Yami, you have passed with flying colors. Congratulations. Hiruzen said with a smile on his face. He knew that Mizuki was already in his prime and he wasn't going to get any stronger, so it was no use pondering over why Yami put Mizuki in such a state. Hiruzen was happy that the village had gained one more prodigy in the ranks, and Hiruzen intended to groom him to his full potential. This was the true face of the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Chapter 32, Yami's Genin Team. After Yami finished his exam, the rest of the students also completed their graduation tests one by one, but none of them were as impressive as Yami, not even close. After the exam finished, all the kids who passed were standing on one side while the ones who failed were on the other side. Those who have failed go to your class with your Tanaka-sensei. Irika said. The students were sad that they couldn't pass the academy and they looked down in embarrassment. Seeing this, Hiruzen said, don't worry kids, the fact that you didn't pass today's exam doesn't mean you won't graduate this year. Go and practice harder and Irika-sensei will take your exam once again. As the students heard that, they looked up with happy faces. Seeing that they were going to get another chance to graduate this year, they were all pumped up. They bowed down to Hiruzen and thanked him. Come on kids, let's go to class and discuss what you guys did wrong and how you can improve. Tanaka said. Yes, sir, the students said as they followed Tanaka outside the training ground. Now one by one you guys come here to take your graduation certificate and your shinobi headband, Irika said. Eventually, the ceremony ended and Hiruzen even gave a speech on the Will of Fire like the one he does when the academy is enrolling kids. The graduates got pretty excited to go out in the shinobi world and make their mark. Little did they know that half of them won't even live to become a jonin. Kids, now you can go home. Tomorrow we will announce your genin teams. Irika said, and all the children ran away to give their families the good news. As the training ground became quiet, the only people left on the ground were Hiruzen and Irika. Hokage-sama, was the objective that you had in mind completed? Irika asked. He was informed by Shikaku that this year's test will be different because Hokage-sama has something on his mind. Irika knew that he wasn't too high in the food chain, not enough to ask Hiruzen or Shikaku any questions, but he still decided to ask the question. Irika, come to the office in an hour and you will understand everything. Irika nodded and left. Hiruzen also left the training ground and headed toward the Hokage Tower. 1 hour later, Hokage office. Hiruzen, you are making a mistake. I can train the kid to be a better weapon for the village. Danzo, don't make me repeat myself. I have already told you to maintain your distance from his brothers. You know the consequences very well, don't you? Danzo didn't bother to reply as he just snorted and left Hiruzen's office. Standing outside the door were Irika, Shikaku, Might Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma. As the door was flung open by Danzo, Hiruzen signaled Shikaku to come in and bring others with him as well. While everyone came inside the office, Hiruzen asked Asuma, what are you doing here? Well, I was with Kurenai when you summoned her, and I decided to accompany her. I can leave if this is only for selected ears. Asuma said. When he and Kurenai found out that she was summoned, they knew that this must have some connection to Yami. So Asuma decided to tag along. He had heard about Yami from Kurenai and Hiruzen a couple of times, so he thought it was time to meet this little prodigy his friend and father have been talking about. No, it's fine. Asuma, Irika, the reason for the sudden change in exam format this year is because I felt we need to nurture a team of shinobi who can become the pillars of our village in the future. Just like the team of Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru. We need to give some students more opportunities at a very young age. So all the students who passed today are those students? Irika asked. No, not everyone. Just 3 of them to form a single team and will become a powerful search and destroy team. A team which is completely based on offense but won't be short on defense and censor. So Dad, have you found such a team? Asuma asked. He had realized that Yami was definitely part of such a team, which is why Kurenai was called here. Yes, the team will include Yami Uchiha, Rock Lee, and Neji Hyuga, and Might Guy. I want you to be their Jonin-sensei. Hiruzen said, looking at Might Guy. Might Guy as well as the others were shocked to hear it, and when they thought properly they realized that Neji is a sensor as well as a good offense due to his Kekkai Jinkai, Rock Lee is a master at Taijutsu, and Yami is good in ninjutsu and a monster in Genjutsu. Hokage-sama, can I ask why me? Might Guy asked. He felt honored that he was given such a chance, and in his heart, he wanted to cheer as well, but he knew he was standing in front of the village's Hokage. Because the thing they have in common is that they all are good at taijutsu, and I don't think anyone in this village can best you in it. Hiruzen said, boosting Might Guy even more. Dad, the class graduating next year also has some good seedlings, including Yami's elder brother Sasuke and Shikaku's son Shikamaru. Asuma said. Yes, and Ino Yamanaka and Choji will also be good shinobis if they master their clan jutsus. So will such a team be created next year as well? I will have to adjust the training and curriculum of students that way. Irika asked. Before Hiruzen could say, Shikaku spoke, but all of them are the successors to be for the next clan head. And Neji, being from the branch clan, will want to prove his prowess, and Rock Lee, being looked down upon for not being able to use ninjutsu, will work way harder than anyone. He is right. The seedlings of next year will have their attention divided between their clan and their village, but these three have no such thing. At first, I thought that this wouldn't be possible in such a short time, but Yami, being a monster among prodigies, brought all the skills that Neji and Rock Lee lack. Hiruzen said. Hokage-sama, you are right. I have taught the kid Yami a couple of genjutsus, and he has already surpassed me. Kurenai said. Good, now that we have everything discussed, Might Guy, you will meet your team tomorrow. Will there be anything you need? Hiruzen asked, sitting back in his chair. He knew he was getting old, and there were many vultures eyeing for his seat, so he wanted to create something which would ensure the village's future. Actually I can handle Rock Lee and Neji, as their main strength is taijutsu, but I can't teach Yami ninjutsu and genjutsu. Mike, I don't worry about genjutsu. Leave that brat to me. I will train him in genjutsu. As for ninjutsu, I don't know who can teach him. Kurenai assured Might Guy. Shikaku, do you have anyone in mind who will be skilled enough to handle Yami in terms of genjutsu? Hiruzen looked at his trusted advisor. I think Kakashi will be best at it. He has rejected every squad given to him, but I think he will be perfect to teach Yami. Shikaku said, and everyone nodded while thinking only a prodigy like Kakashi can handle Yami. Chapter 33, Search and Destroy. While such a discussion was happening at the Hokage building, Yami and Sasuke were celebrating at home. If they take such an exam for us next year, then even half our class will get flunked. Sasuke said while eating ramen. Hokage-sama said that after a few days the failed students will be given another chance, and it would be an easier exam. Tomorrow we will know who our Jonin-sensei is, Yami said. So who do you want to be your Jonin-sensei, and what can they even teach you? Sasuke said. He felt that the Jonin-sensei is no more than just a babysitter. Sasuke knew that there wasn't anyone in his class who was on par with him. Even Naruto was only somewhat good at sparring, as they spar from time to time. He knew that next year, no matter who he gets in the squad, they will hold him back. I don't know any Jonin other than Miss Kurenai. So I would prefer her as my Jonin-sensei. The rest of the day passed with Yami and Sasuke training on their own. The next day, all the past students were sitting in the class. Many of them were continuously touching their headband and admiring it, as they had worked hard for many years to earn it. Rock Lee had red eyes, and anyone could come to the conclusion that he must have cried a lot. After a few minutes, Tanaka entered the class and said, everyone, now I will announce your Genin teams. Get along with your teammates well, and in battle watch their backs. One by one Tanaka announced all the groups, and at the end, Yami's group was also announced. Rock Lee, Neji Hyuga, and Yami Uchiha, your Jonin-sensei will be Mikoto Guy, Might Guy. The entire class was stunned at this. They had been told that every squad will be balanced in strength, which means that the top rankers will definitely be in different squads. But now seeing that the top 2 rankers were in the same team, they felt being lied to. No matter how much they have mocked Rock Lee, they knew that Rock Lee was good at taijutsu. Yami could feel Niji's eyes drilling through his skull, but he decided to ignore it. One by one the Jonin sensei of each squad came and took their squad away. In the end, the only squad left was Yami's. After a few minutes, a man in a green jumpsuit similar to Rock Lee entered the class and shouted, "Good morning, kids. I am Konoha's green beast." My guys seeing him like this made Yami and Niji cringe at the same time. Rock Lee was very happy to see that the man who understood him the most in the village was his Jonin sensei. "Guy sensei, I am in your squad. We will be the best squad this year," Rock Lee said, to which Might Guy showed a thumbs up and said, "Of course Lee, this is our chance to shine." This is youth. Might Guy talked a few more things with Rock Lee and even Niji and Yami. Yami knew he would have to get used to Might Guy now, as tends to talk too much for no apparent reason. "Lee and Niji, you both will come with me for taijutsu training, and Yami, you will go to training ground 12 for ninjutsu practice." "Any questions?" Might Guy asked. "Guy sensei, we were told that the teams will be balanced, then why are me and Yami on the same team? Even Lee surpasses everyone in terms of taijutsu, so he should also be in a different team. And why are we splitting to train?" "The reason why you 3 are in the same team is that Hokage-sama wanted to create a search and destroy team. Such a team existed in the past, and the team members of that squad began to be known as the 3 legendary Sannin. Such a team requires extremely high offensive strength, but it cannot ignore other types of jutsus as well. And as I am a pure taijutsu specialist, I don't think I can teach Yami anything about ninjutsu, so this will be the job of my eternal rival Kakashi. Lee covers taijutsu part, Niji covers taijutsu and sensor part. His defense is also commendable. I can handle ninjutsu, genjutsu, kenjutsu. My taijutsu isn't too good like Lee, but my body is way stronger than theirs. The only thing missing is medical ninjutsu, and having Byakugan will give Niji an edge over others in terms of medical ninjutsu." Yami thought, and he looked at Niji and said, "Try to learn medical ninjutsu if you can." As Yami said this, he turned away to leave the classroom. How dare he tell me what to do? Just because he is a bit stronger than me, he thinks he can order me around. Niji thought as Yami telling him to do something somewhat hurt his pride. He may be right. Byakugan will make your medical ninjutsu more efficient, and Yami is already going to handle the ninjutsu and genjutsu part. Niji, think about it and let me know. I will contact Konoha Hospital and arrange a few lessons for you. If he can handle 2 fronts in this team, then so can I, Niji snorted. I will try to practice medical ninjutsu, Guy sensei, Niji said with a firm tone. On training ground 12, Yami had just arrived and he was sitting under a tree. Just when he thought that Kakashi would be late, a voice came. "So you are Yami, huh? They told me you are a prodigy." The voice came from a branch just above Yami. Kakashi expected Yami to either look up calmly or just panic and pull out a kunai, but nothing like that happened. Instead, "I heard that you used to be a prodigy too," was the voice that came from behind Kakashi. He looked behind and Yami was hanging upside down from a branch. When Kakashi's eyes widened as he saw the Yami behind him looking at him with his cold blue eyes. Chapter 34, Meeting Kakashi Hatake. When did he come behind me? I was following him from the academy, so when did he detect me and get the time to create a clone and then follow me? I didn't even feel any chakra fluctuation from him. Kakashi's mind was filled with questions to which he himself wanted answers. "How did you find me and manage to hide from me while following me?" Kakashi asked while looking at Yami, who was hanging upside down like a bat. "Because I never followed you. After I sensed that you were following me, I created a clone and came here. I didn't have to follow you, I had to bring you here, and it was you who called me to meet at this training ground." Yami shrugged his shoulders. Even if he shouldn't be able to get so close to me without me detecting his chakra unless he sealed his chakra points. But wait, then how is he? As all this was going to Kakashi's head, his eyes suddenly widened. I lost Kakashi's side and continued. "The only way to sneak behind me so close without me knowing was to seal your own chakra points, but you haven't sealed them, and the proof is that you are standing upside down on this branch. All this comes down to only one answer. I am in a genjutsu, aren't I? As Kakashi said that, Yami had a small smile on his face. "You really didn't disappoint me, Kakashi Hatake. Usually, someone else would have ignored the fact about me sneaking up behind them and not followed it to the end. But you investigated it till you came to a conclusion," Yami said, and the noise of glass breaking was heard, and Kakashi found himself still standing on a tree on the side of the academy, and in front of him through the window he could see Mikai talking to Neji and Lee. When and how did I even fall in a Genjutsu? Kakashi wondered, but then he heard someone call and wave at him. He looked down and saw a kid sitting on the swing. Kakashi was confused for a second as to who the kid was and how he found out when the kid's eyes turned into a two-tomo Sharingan. "Is that Yami?" Kakashi said, and he jumped down in front of the kid. Poof, the kid changed into Yami, making Kakashi think about what had just happened. "I never really went to the academy for the past 2 years and just sent my shadow clones. Except for exams or ninjutsu tests, I didn't have to. But today I knew that only the squads will be announced, so I didn't need to come personally, and I thought, let's see when does my Jonin sensei realize I am just a clone. I wanted to stay in close proximity of my clone so that I can replace it with another one if it gets destroyed when the Jonin sensei tests me. The safest way to stay close was to play in this park in disguise, and who would have thought that you would be here to test me as well?" Yami explained everything to Kakashi. Actually, he didn't need to do it, but he knew Kakashi would treat him like a kid on training wheels, and Yami needed Kakashi to get to the good stuff like Chidori and all. Yami knew that most probably Kakashi will become the Jonin sensei of Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura like the canon, and then he won't teach Yami anything, so he needed to get all skills out of Kakashi in a year while completing missions with his squad and Guy sensei. Kurenai didn't have anything to teach Yami as he had already surpassed her, but her experience was valuable to him, so he would have to meet her every week as well. When Yami first saw Kakashi, he thought that Kakashi was just here to meet Might Guy, but when Might Guy told Yami's clone that Kakashi is waiting for him at Training Ground 12, his clone went outside the class and dispersed himself, giving the memories to the real Yami, who was in disguise. In his previous world, Yami admired Kakashi and his wits, so as soon as he found out that Kakashi will be teaching him, he decided to show Kakashi what level he was at. Kakashi's mind was flooded with many things, but all of that boiled down to one thing: seems like I will have to teach this kid seriously and keep my Sharingan active when I am around him, or else I wouldn't even know when he put me in a Genjutsu. Kakashi thought that he was pulled in a Genjutsu because he had covered his Sharingan eye, but he didn't know that Yami's Genjutsu can't be seen through even with a Sharingan. "So should we go to Training Ground 12 now?" Yami asked. "No, I don't think we need to do that. I will come to the Uchiha compound tomorrow at 7 a.m. You can go home and rest now. I and Guy will chalk out a routine for me to train you and for your squad missions," Kakashi said as he had called Yami to the training ground to find out his strength, but Yami had already proven it, so it was unnecessary now. "Alright, then I will take your leave," Yami said, and his body flickered out. "So he knows this jutsu too. Seems like he raided all the Uchiha scrolls. Sighs, I thought I could read the new version of Ikaika Paradise and Peace, but now I have to give the Hokage-sama a report of this kid's actions and even find what I can teach this little monster. What did I do to get such a hard life?" Kakashi could feel all the work that was going to come to him to train Yami, and he already started feeling tired because of it. Chapter 35, First Day of Training. As Kakashi was thinking about this, he heard someone calling him from behind. "Hey Kakashi!" Kakashi turned back and saw Asuma and Kurenai walking toward him. Kakashi raised his eyebrows as he had started these two together quite often for some time now. "Hey Asuma, Kurenai. You both seem to be roaming together a lot nowadays." What are you saying, Kakashi? "This is just a coincidence," Asuma said while giving out a nervous laugh, and Kurenai had a little embarrassed expression on her face and she looked the other way. "Heh, if you say so. I just came back from meeting that kid you trained, Kurenai," Kakashi said. As Kurenai heard that, her mood changed instantly from embarrassed to excited as she asked, "What did you tell him to do for the test? How did he perform? Did he use ninjutsu or genjutsu?" Kurenai kept asking a barrage of questions, so Kakashi decided to stop her and said he put me in a Genjutsu without me even knowing, and I didn't even feel anything different when I was pulled into his Genjutsu, which I thought was impossible, but now it's truly frightening. As soon as Kurenai heard Kakashi talking about him not feeling anything different, she knew he was talking about experienced shinobis feeling a slight fluctuation like a gut feeling, she thought, so he affected Kakashi's sixth sense as well. Kakashi is a prodigy as well, so it does make sense. So what are you going to teach him? Asuma asked. I have read his file, but his chakra natures haven't been written on it, and I don't even know whether he himself knows them, so based on that I will try to teach him some jutsus and increase the efficiency of the jutsus that he already knows. He is an Uchiha, so fire is an obvious one, Kakashi said. Kakashi knew that kids nowadays normally don't put too much effort into learning jutsus of particular chakra natures, but one thing Kakashi was sure of was that each and every Uchiha had a good affinity to fire chakra. The three of them talked for a few more minutes and then Kakashi left. He wanted to give Hiruzen today's report, but he decided to train Yami for a few days and give Hiruzen an appropriate evaluation. The next day Yami was waiting at the gates of the Uchiha compound early in the morning. Kakashi was going to meet at 7 a.m. and it had already been 7:30. Yami knew that Kakashi had a tendency to come late, so he was already prepared to wait. After half an hour, that is at 8 a.m., Kakashi came and stood in front of Yami. Yo, Kakashi said while waiting toward Yami. I am sorry, I was late actually. As Kakashi was about to give a reason, Yami just waved his hand and said no problem, I had a good nap thanks to you, Yami said, and turned around walking inside the Uchiha compound. Kakashi had good reasons prepared and the people around him were pretty fed up, so Yami didn't let Kakashi give any excuses. After a few minutes, they reached a training ground that wasn't too deep inside the compound. So Yami, Hokage-sama speculates that you must be good at ninjutsu, but you have never used even one of them in your duration in the academy. So first, I want to know how you are performing the justice that you have already practiced many times, Kakashi said. Yami nodded and they both faced the same direction. Yami performed some hand seals and made and spewed a fireball from his mouth. He kept the size of the fireball in control so as to not shock Kakashi completely, but the heat that was radiated from the fireball was not something Yami could control because of his dense chakra. The size of the fireball is equivalent to a Chunin's strength, but how can his fire so potent? Even though the fire is still a bit far from me, I can feel my skin tingling, Kakashi thought. Good, your fire style is really strong, Yami. Thanks, Mr. Kakashi, but in the Uchiha clan, Fireball Jutsu is the first and most basic jutsu we practice, so it isn't a surprise. Yami just shrugged. For the next few seconds, Kakashi was lost in thought as he remembered the fails of Obito trying to make a large fireball. Under the mask, Kakashi had a small smile on his face, reminiscing about the past. So Yami, do you know what other elemental chakra attributes you possess? Except fire, I have wind and lightning. While there aren't many people who possess wind attribute, the number of lightning jutsus in our village are even rare. Yami sighed. For the past 2 years, Yami had tried a lot to get some good wind and lightning jutsus from the Konoha archives, but due to him being an academy student he didn't have much access. He even asked the man who sold him the scrolls and wait behind the clothing shop, but to no avail. Turns out Kumogakure taught lightning jutsus to only those who have earned the trust of the higher-ups. This got Kakashi thinking, as what Yami said was indeed true. Yami wasn't Kakashi's student, nor did they know each other very well. So teaching Yami Chidori and stuff was out of the question for Kakashi. So in the end, Kakashi concluded that he will teach Yami change and chakra nature and even ask Yami if he has anything in mind. So what would you like to practice? Kakashi asked. I've heard that they call you the copy ninja and you have copied more than 1,000 jutsus? Yep, that's correct. So you want me to teach you jutsus? Kakashi was a bit disappointed by it because he had expected Yami to be patient and hold quality over quantity. No, that's not what I want. I don't want to overload myself with too many jutsus. I want you to use jutsus on me and teach me how to counter them. Hearing this, the disappointment that Kakashi had on his face vanished and an expression of surprise could be seen on his face even when he wore a mask. Chapter 36, The Copy Ninja. That's an interesting way to train. I would have never thought of something like that. So which jutsus should I start with? Kakashi asked. Let's start with fire, as it is common in our land of fire, and I think most of my missions for a year or two will be inside the land of fire. If only you knew, kid, what Hokage-sama has planned for your squad. Kakashi sighed. He had seen many Genins lose their life at times of war and even in times of peace. He himself had lost 2 of his teammates at the times of war, and one of them was killed by his own hand. Kakashi may be known by many people for his Chidori and his work record at Umbu, but the only Chidori he remembers is when it tore through his friend Rin's heart. It took me a lot of years to make peace with these emotions. After losing Sensei, I seem to have stopped feeling many things. And now seeing this kid reminds me a little of myself. Kakashi looked at Yami with a pitiful smile. Hello, Earth to Mr. Kakashi. Should we start? Yami said while snapping his fingers in front of Kakashi, bringing him out of his thoughts. After that, Kakashi and Yami started their practice to defend against different jutsus. At first, Kakashi would tell his way to avoid the jutsu or counter it, and later Yami would give his own input and make the counter even more foolproof. Things like this kept going on for 2 more hours, and after that Yami was breathing heavily. Kakashi used many jutsus like Fireball, Fire Phoenix, Water Bullet, and even Water Dragon. Water-related jutsus are really tough to counter. Yami said, looking at Kakashi, who was sitting under a tree beside him. Of course it's because water can be molded as you wish, and don't forget the second Hokage Lord Tobirama was well known for his water-style jutsus. You need to understand the behavior of the elements to counter them, Kakashi said while touching the soil beneath him. What do you mean by behavior? Yami asked, as this was the first time he was hearing something like this. The anime never said anything about the behavior of elements. Did they show anything about this in the filler episodes? Damn, I shouldn't have skipped those. But there were so many fillers in Naruto and One Piece that I had no option other than to skip them. Yami was thinking when Kakashi gave the answer to his question. Fire is simple to control because its effects depend upon the intensity of the fire rather than its quantity. Water, just like I said, can be molded however you like. Earth, on the other hand, is stubborn, just like that Suchikage, and Earth's element is very stationary, which is why many prefer it to be used for defense. Lightning is more powerful than the others, but it is very unstable. Only a few people can control lightning to a good extent, and they are from the family of the Reikage. So the Reikage and his family must be strong, right? Yami asked excitedly. He wanted Kakashi to open up about lightning. Yami had given much thought to learning the Rasengan, but he decided that if the village ever finds out, then they will pester him to tell from where he learned it. Yami wanted to wait till Jiraiya teaches Naruto the Rasengan so that later Yami could claim he copied the jutsu with his Sharingan. Today, by seeing Kakashi perform jutsus, Yami had copied Fire Phoenix and Water Bullet. He knew that he didn't have water chakra affinity, so his Water Bullet won't be too powerful, but it doesn't hurt to add a jutsu in your arsenal. Yes, they are strong, but they use lightning for speed and defense rather than its damage, as even they haven't progressed enough to control it. They can use the damage in a wide area, but when there are allies and enemies in the mix, then lightning jutsus aren't preferable for damage. They rather use their speed to maneuver and take down enemies. Let's stop our practice for today, and I will see you 3 days later as per the timetable made by me and Guy. Now go freshen up and meet your team at Konoha Hospital. Kakashi said while wrapping up his things as well. He had brought some scrolls that depicted the relationship between elements. Why Konoha Hospital? Who was injured? Yami asked. No one. Your teammate Niji is at the hospital practicing medical jutsu. I will be going now. Kakashi waved toward Yami and turned back. I don't know if he has decided on a weapon. He has wind chakra affinity, so he might be able to use knuckle blades like Asuma. Kakashi thought as he turned back and asked Yami, do you plan to use any weapon, or do you want to have hand-to-hand combat like Guy? No one told him about me being good at Genjutsu? Seems like Guy-sensei was the one who briefed him on everything and forgot. Well, Kakashi is pretty good with a short sword just like his father, but he hasn't used it for a long time. It wouldn't hurt to spar with him in terms of Genjutsu. I am bored sparring with Sasuke the whole time. I am pretty good at Genjutsu with a katana, Yami said in a proud tone. Hearing this, Kakashi raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, pretty good, huh? Fine, bring it during our next practice and I will decide how good you are." Yami nodded in understanding and Kakashi left the training ground. Yami followed him to walk him to the Uchiha gates. While walking, Kakashi and Yami talked about many topics. Some of the topics were that Yami already knew, but he had to behave like a kid who doesn't have much knowledge about the outside world. As Yami and Kakashi reached the gates, both said their goodbyes, and as they turned their backs to each other they both thought the same thing. Why is a root shinobi hiding outside the clan compound? Chapter 37 Team Guy. Kakashi and Yami both realized that there was someone from the root spying on them. They knew it was Root because the spy had worn a full black cloak and a fox mask. Kakashi had spotted the spy because he was an experienced shinobi who was also the leader of an Umbu team a few years ago. Kakashi didn't stop even after realizing that there was a spy, but he did look back to see whether Yami had discovered it or not. Yami did discover, but he didn't want to alarm the spy or Kakashi, so he kept walking inside the Uchiha compound like a normal person. Yami spotted the spy because in the past 2 years Yami had trained himself with such discipline that not even a small amount of chakra could be leaked from his body. This gave Yami the capability to feel the chakra fluctuations around him. Even people who aren't shinobi radiate a small amount of chakra around them, causing fluctuations that Yami can pick up if the distance isn't too much. Seems like Yami is oblivious to this. I am sure this wouldn't be on the instructions on Hokage-sama, or else he would have given me a heads up. I need to inform Hokage-sama. Kakashi was thinking as he headed toward the Hokage building. Yami, on the other hand, had expected Danzo to become active again, especially after the graduation exam. I have to go to Konoha Hospital now. I can send a shadow clone there and it won't have any problem completing a D-rank mission with the team or even using some easy jutsu, but if I have to spar with anyone from the squad or with Guy-sensei, then I will be found out. For now, I will personally go to the hospital and go as normal with the rest of the day. I want to know whether the mission is to keep an eye on the Uchiha compound or to specifically spy on me, Yami thought as he reached home. The spy hadn't entered the Uchiha grounds as he wasn't aware if there were any seals in place to spot intruders. And the risk wasn't worth it as the only people staying inside were 2 kids. Yami changed his clothes and wore his Konoha headband. He left the Uchiha compound and the spy was still there. Yami could not remember any specific chakra signatures, so when he reaches a crowded place the spy's chakra fluctuation will get mixed with the crowds and Yami won't know if he is being spied upon until he is back in an empty place. I need to learn how to distinguish different chakra signatures so that I will know if someone is spying on me in a crowded place. The spy is good enough that I can't feel his gaze on me. Well, he is a member of Root, so I don't expect anything less from him, Yami thought as he had reached the crowded streets of Konoha and he didn't know where the spy is or if he even left. As Yami entered the hospital, it didn't take long for him to spot 2 people wearing green spandex and talking loudly. Yami looked at Guy and Lee but couldn't spot Niji, so he headed towards the duo. Guy-sensei, Lee, I am here. Where is Niji? Yami asked, standing behind the room, making them turn back. Oh, Yami, you are here. Niji is taking a test with a doctor inside the room. Tell me, how was your practice with Kakashi today? Guy asked. It was fruitful, but I will need to train with him for a few months to get notable results, Yami said and looked at the door beside him. Through the small glass window on the door, he could see that Niji was standing with a man in a white coat and they both had a fish in front of them on a table. Today doesn't seem like a good day for fish fry, Yami thought. Yami sat down on one of the chairs kept outside the room while Guy and Lee were still talking. Guy-sensei, do you think Niji can do it? Lee asked. Of course, Lee, Niji is youthful. He can and will do it. Don't you worry about it. Let's go and run 10 laps around the hospital on our hands to encourage Niji, Guy said with a bright smile. Yes, Guy-sensei. Let's go and motivate Niji, Lee said while throwing a fist up in the air, and both the spandex-wearing weirdos ran out of the hospital. Yami simply sighed as he knew more of this is going to come in the future. In a few minutes, the door of the room opened and the doctor stepped out with Niji following him. Niji saw Yami sitting in front of the room. The doctor looked around trying to find my guy when Niji asked Yami where are Guy-sensei and Lee. They're both running around the hospital on their hands. Yami said, to which the doctor facepalmed himself, and Niji had the same expression which Yami had a few minutes ago. Niji, for now you can leave with your team. I will prepare the documents and the badge of a medical ninja for you, the doctor said and left. Let's go outside and meet them, Yami said as he stood up, and Niji nodded. Both of them exited the hospital in time to see Guy and Lee doing a handstand and walking while everyone around them was looking at them. Guy-sensei, let's go. Niji has passed the exam. He will get the documents later, Yami said, to which both weirdos jumped and landed on their feet. This is youth. See, Lee, our motivation worked like a charm, Guy said, and Lee nodded vigorously. Now where to Guy-sensei? Lee asked the question Yami and Niji wanted to. Let's go to the mission desk and get our first mission, Guy said, and started running toward the academy where the mission assignment desk is located. Rock Lee also ran behind Guy. Niji looked toward them running and then toward Yami and asked, you are also going to run with them? To which Yami replied no. This was the answer Niji wanted to hear because he didn't want to run behind them. Thank God, now at least I can walk with him there, Niji thought when Yami's body flickered out of there, making Niji mutter angrily. Bastard. Chapter 38, First Mission. I need to learn this jutsu, Niji said and stomped the ground in slight anger and started running toward the academy as well. After a few minutes, Team Guy was standing in front of the mission assignment desk at the academy. In front of them were Hiruzen, Irika, and a few others who Yami didn't recognize. Hokage-sama, Team Guy is ready for their first mission, Guy said. Team Guy, as this is your first mission, your team will get a D-rank mission. Your mission will be to clear land for farming on the outskirts of the village, Hiruzen said while passing a scroll that Guy took and opened. Irika waited for Guy to take a look at the scroll and said, the scroll shows the parts where we want the forest cleared. No need to take care of the roots as they will be handled by the farmers. This is really waste of time. I should have sent a clone rather than coming here myself, Yami thought. After explaining a few more details, Guy officially accepted the mission and the Who squad left the building and followed the map to go to the outskirts of the village. Now the crowd will reduce and I will find out whether I am being followed or not. Yami got an idea. As the whole team reached the designated place, they saw that the place was full of wild shrubs and plants. There were a few trees as well. So Guy-sensei, how do we do it? Lee asked, to which Guy replied, let's pull out each and every shrub and then destroy the trees. Niji wanted to object and think of a more efficient plan, but Yami quickly said, Guy-sensei, why don't I burn the shrubs and plants with my fire jutsu and you three can destroy the trees? Guy-sensei, I can weaken the trees from the inside using gentle fist and Lee can use kicks and punches to destroy it, Niji said as he didn't want to be outsmarted by Yami. Niji had already felt a lot inferior for the past few years by losing to Yami, but now he wanted to surpass him at any cost. Okay, Niji, what you and Yami say does sound like a good plan. Lee, go with Niji and take care of the medium-sized trees while I will destroy the bigger ones, Guy said, pointing towards a tree whose trunk was very thick. Guy knew that gentle fist won't affect such a thick trunk, so he took it upon himself to destroy it. I should have brought my sword and this mission could be done within an hour, Yami was thinking when suddenly he felt chakra fluctuation some distance behind him. This made Yami realize that the spy's mission was to keep an eye on him. For the next hour, Yami used fire at a small scale to burn all the shrubs and plants. The spy was at a safe distance so he couldn't feel the intense heat coming from Yami's fire, and Yami kept the size of the fireball to the level of a low chunin, which would make the spy think that ninjutsu is not too much of a strong suit of Yami. After he finished burning down everything to ash, he went to see how his teammates were doing. He saw Niji using chakra-covered palm on the tree, and then Lee would kick it, making the tree develop a big crack and fall down. There were no shrubs near the land where his teammates were working, so Yami decided to rest on a fallen tree. After a few minutes, the rest of Team Guy was sitting on the fallen tree with Yami having lunch. Our work here is done, kids, I will go and submit the mission. You three can go home. Guy said, and Yami felt relieved as it was getting frustrating for Yami to not react to the spy's presence. Everyone from Team Dai started to go in their own direction. As Yami was going to leave the crowded streets and take a turn to go to the Uchiha compound, he entered a dark alley. As soon as he entered the alley, he created a clone of himself and had the clone leave the alley and head straight home at a normal pace. Yami used transformation jutsu and turned himself into a normal civilian and stood in the alley. Yami waited for the clone to reach some distance so that the spy won't notice the transformed Yami coming out of the same alley. After 30 seconds, Yami left the alley as well and headed toward the Uchiha compound at a slow pace. He made sure to not leak even a shred of chakra. The chances of the spy being a Hyuga and noticing someone following him were slim to none, as the Hyuga were a somewhat tightly knit clan. As Yami reached near the Uchiha gates hiding in the nearby jungle, he saw that his clone just entered the gates. Yami closed his eyes and tried to sense the chakra fluctuation of the spy, and in a few seconds, he found the spy hiding between two shrubs. Using Genjutsu with my Sharingan may startle him, as I will need to confront him. He could fight back, run, or even kill himself before falling into my Genjutsu. I need to use sound-based Genjutsu, and I have just practiced it in front of Sasuke and Kurenai. Yami sneaked up behind the spy, who had worn a black cloak and a mask. He performed the hand seals to put the spy in the Genjutsu. As soon as the Genjutsu was cast, the spy flinched and quickly looked back. I hope he is in the Genjutsu. Now is the moment of truth. Yami thought as the spy looked at him and said, Lord Danzo, you are here. I thought you told me to give you the report by the end of the night after I infiltrate the Uchiha compound. Yesss, it worked. Yami screamed internally. He had used the sound of Danzo's cane to create the Genjutsu, making the spy believe that he was Danzo himself. I know what I said, but I want you to tell me your findings now. Yami said, making himself sound like Danzo. He had seen enough anime to know how the old goat sounds. Chapter 39, Inside Information. As you say, Danzo-sama, the spy said, and told everything that he saw from Kakashi coming in the morning to Yami's hospital visit and also his mission. He didn't mention anything about going into an alley, which made Yami realize that this spy was not too higher up in the food chain. Follow me, Yami said, and made the spy come with him a little deep inside the forest. He decided to have a nice chat with the spy and also use the heartbeat rhythms, which ignore seals and makes the person answer everything in a Genjutsu. Before that, he wanted to put the spy in a 5 senses Genjutsu so that there would be no chance of escape. Using the 6th sense and also the rhythm for an extended period of time will put too much strain on me. I think I need to work on my devouring law and absorb some corpses, Yami thought as he reached a bit deeper inside the jungle. Yami switched on his Sharingan and looked back. Before the spy could realize that it was a Sharingan, he was already in a Genjutsu, and according to him, the person standing in front of him is Danzo, and his eyes were normal. For a second I thought Danzo-sama's eyes changed color, but it must be just the sunlight reflecting oddly in the forest, the spy thought. For a moment there was a doubt in the spy's mind, but he quickly dispersed it because he knows if he is wrong he would have to suffer a fate worse than death. After Yami got the spy completely under his control, he decided to start manipulating his heartbeat, so he made the spy see the illusion that Danzo is sitting on a tree stump while he is kneeling on one knee. Yami brought his hand close to the man's chest and emitted a wisp of chakra which entered the man's heart through the skin. Yami started controlling the heart rate to match the rhythm he wanted. It took him a few seconds, but the man's heartbeat was in sync with the rhythms Yami had read in the scroll, and the demeanor of the man started changing. What the hell, he has become like he is hypnotized even in Genjutsu, which means he may probably not remember what he will say during the whole time he is saying the truth. The only way he will notice something wrong is when he realizes how much time has passed. Yami, who was standing in front of the kneeling spy, slowly removes the man's mask only to see a 22 to 24-year-old man. What is your name? Makoheim, what is your age? 22, who do you work for? Lord Danzo, where are your parents? I am an orphan. I don't know who they were or whether they are alive or not. Which organization do you belong to? Root, with whom does your loyalty lie? Lord Danzo, why? Because he is the one who truly deserves to become Hokage? Oh, I have got a brainwashed one here. I will have to use him against Danzo. It will be troublesome. Yami thought as he massaged his temples. What are you doing outside the Uchiha compound today? I am on a mission. What was the mission and who gave you? The mission was given to me by Danzo-sama and it was to keep an eye on Yami Uchiha and infiltrate the Uchiha compound at night. Why were you told to infiltrate the Uchiha compound at night? To put Sasuke and Yami Uchiha unconscious and search the entire house of the patriarch. To search what? Scroll leading to the whereabouts of Itachi Uchiha or some contact between the brothers. As Yami heard this, his eyes widened. Seems like Danzo wants to know whether me and Sasuke know the truth and also a way to contact Itachi. He seems like he is getting impatient to get some Sharingans. Mako, tell me everything you know about Root. Yami said, and Mako started telling him everything he knew about Root, which was not much. Mako was someone whose main job was information gathering and sending scrolls discreetly. He also found out Mako is gifted in the art of poison. It's already been long enough. He may be blindly loyal to Danzo, but he is no idiot if Danzo trusts him with confidential scrolls. Yami thought as he removed the hand which was near Mako's chest, making the rhythm break, and Mako's heart rate became normal. Mako suddenly felt like somebody had woken him up from sleep. He looked in front and saw Danzo sitting. Before Mako could say something, the illusionary Danzo said, "What are you daydreaming about, Mako?" Listening to this, Mako was shocked a little as Danzo had never addressed him by his name. In fact, Mako normally received orders from his team leader and hardly had any contact with Danzo. Danzo-sama, it's an honor that you know my name," Mako said, lowering his head a little. "Mako, there is a special reason I have come here today. Danzo-sama, I will complete every task you give me even if it demands my sacrifice. Mako, you need to know that me at the Root headquarters isn't in my control," Yami said while thinking, hope this bluff works. This is too far-fetched, but in this nothing is impossible. Hearing this, Mako had a confused expression on his face, as this he couldn't understand what Danzo was trying to tell him. "What do you mean, Danzo-sama?" "A few months ago, Orochimaru gave me some Hashirama cells to use on my arm. But what I didn't know was that the snake had used his own cells as well to control my body and mind." Mako couldn't believe what he had just heard. "Then you? The me standing in front of you is the real me. When I realized what that snake had done, I transferred my consciousness using Yamanaka's forbidden jutsu. For now, continue your mission, but don't go inside as there are few Genjutsu seals spread out. For the next week, gather as much information as you can in the Root headquarters. Orochimaru must have made changes to them. Next week at night we will meet right here," Yami said. "He may not trust me completely, but creating a shred of doubt is more than enough. Till the next week, I need to acquire good control over my devouring law so that next week I can remove the seal put on him by Danzo and prove to him that I am the real deal. Danzo, it's time to dance." Chapter 40, Controlling the Law, Part 1. As you say, Danzo-sama. I won't infiltrate the Uchiha compound when there are barrier seals spread out. What should I write in the report? Mako asked. If Danzo finds out that Mako was able to infiltrate the compound, he may start sending more of his people and treat this place as a public park. Saying that there are barrier seals set up may arouse suspicion, as Sasuke and me both are minors. As Yami was thinking, suddenly an idea came to his mind and he said, "Write that you couldn't infiltrate the house due to barrier seals. The seals seem to be set up by the Umbu, and even some of Umbu members check on the compound from time to time." "Yes, Danzo-sama, I will write the report and deliver it to the Root headquarters by tomorrow morning," Mako said, and he saw the Danzo in front of him leave and vanish inside the dense forest. Even though I said so many confidential things, the seal on my tongue didn't act up, which means Orochimaru truly did betray Danzo-sama. Mako thought, and after a few minutes, he wore his mask and again hid between the shrubs near the Uchiha gates. The next morning at Root's residence in a big hall, two people were standing in front of each other. One was the head of Root, Danzo, while the other person was a man wearing a cloak and a dog mask. He had a scroll in his hand. Danzo took the scroll from the man's hand and asked, "Who did you send to spy on the Uchiha brats?" The man hesitated and said, "Lord Danzo, I had sent Mako to spy on Yami Uchiha and infiltrate the Uchiha Patriarch's house to find communication between them and Itachi Uchiha but." Seeing the man in the dog mask stuttering so much, Danzo had a frown on his face. "But what?" Danzo asked, but he saw that the man was still hesitating, so he opened the scroll to read the report written by Mako. The frown on Danzo's face continued to increase until he tore the scroll and threw it on the ground. "Hiruzen, how much longer will you protect those brats? I will get you for this." Creating a barrier for the compound of those evil Uchihas and then even using Umbu to guard them. "If I was the Hokage, then I would have ended their bloodline a long time ago," Danzo said in an angry tone which made the man standing in front of him shiver. "Have your squad search for the whereabouts of Itachi." "Go," Danzo shouted, making the man scurry away in fear. "I need to get my hands on those eyes. I had to waste so many years and so much patience to get this arm made of Hashirama cells so that I could insert some Sharingans in them, and Itachi spoiled everything when he took the eyes of his classmates with him. Even though the mission was given by me, he provides the intelligence report to Hiruzen and not me." Uchiha Compound, 7 a.m. Yami's training ground. Yami was sitting at the corner of the training ground and he had a couple of wooden logs cut in front of him. Today he didn't have any training with Kakashi, so he was free till 11 a.m. and then he can start his next mission with Team Guy. It will probably be a D-rank mission or even a C-rank if the village is eager for them to learn the ropes. This isn't as easy as chakra control. Stick a leaf on your forehead and walk around like an idiot, or just walk on trees or on water. Everything I touch with this, living or not, will turn to dust. Yami needed his devouring law control to be so perfect that he should be able to devour the seals on Mako's tongue. If anything goes wrong, Mako is toast and Yami's plan will go down the drain. Yami looked at his left hand, which had the tattoo on it. He activated the law, but this time he didn't let the law pass through his fingers smoothly like always. He tried restricting it to only his index finger. It felt like the nerves inside his fingers were burning, but Yami didn't give up and continued restricting the flow of the black tattoo. The snakes on the tattoo started hissing as if they were angry. For a second Yami thought that they were looking directly at him. Even a fireball wouldn't hurt that much. But the mane is lessening each passing second, as if it is surrendering to my control, Yami thought. After a few seconds, Yami saw that the snakes slowed their hiss and they didn't seem angry. This time, instead of the entire arm becoming black, only the color of the index finger changed to black, and the snakes also reduced in size and circled around the same finger. "I did it!" Yami was happy that he managed to control it so efficiently under just 15 minutes and starting the practice. "Now I just have to touch the wood lightly so that I can devour only the outermost layer of the tree and only the one near the finger." Yami touched the wooden log in front of him, but what happened next scared Yami for the first time after coming to this world. The entire log got devoured in an instant, and even the ground had developed some cracks. "What the fuck?" Yami screamed. He stopped the devouring law completely and massaged his temples. "I thought I was controlling the devouring law by passing it only through one finger, but I had no idea I wasn't controlling it but making it more concentrated and intense." With this experiment, Yami knew that it was going to take a couple of days for Yami to learn to control this law. For the next 2 hours, Yami continued to start and stop the devouring law until he felt some level of control over its spreading and its intensity. Now let's give it another go. Chapter 41, Controlling the Law Part 2. After practicing for a few hours and getting the hang of it, Yami decided to test the law on another log. This time he was very cautious, as the last log got devoured so fast that he couldn't even react. This time he had started to feel the essence of the devouring law, just like he could feel his chakra. He also noticed that the black essence of the devouring law and chakra passed through each other like air and not react at all. The devouring law essence doesn't use my chakra pathways, instead it uses my blood veins and arteries, Yami thought as he again controlled his tattoo to extend and only affect his index finger. He touched the log with his index finger and saw the wood around the touched part drying slowly. He kept doing the same thing for a few seconds and then dusted off the ash from the top. "Oh, The top 2 layers of the tree were affected and the third part is completely safe. This is a pretty good result for just 2 hours of practice. By the time Mako comes next week, I will be ready. Yami thought as he got up and started doing his regular exercises. Just because he needs to focus on devouring law for a few days doesn't mean he can neglect his everyday training. After finishing his regular training, Yami went back home to get a shower and eat some breakfast. After an hour, he has to meet his team outside the academy to take on another mission for today. He decided that from today onwards he will carry his katana as well. Carrying the katana on his waist will be an inconvenience for him because he is just 7 years old, but he can surely carry it on his back and still perform his mission. Outside Konoha Academy, Neji and Yami were standing outside the academy waiting for Lee and Guy. Neji had worn a gray half-sleeve jacket and black half-pants like every day. His left arm and leg were bandaged. He looked at Yami, who had worn a hoodie and full pants. His pants were baggy like the ones he used to wear at the academy. Like the weights he wears now work through seals rather than actual weights, Yami could wear normal-sized pants. Neji saw the sword on Yami's back and thought, I didn't know Yami had a sword. This is the first time I am seeing him with it. He never brought it to the academy, and when our team was announced, Guy-sensei never said anything about Yami using Genjutsu. I didn't know you could use a sword. Are you any good at it? Neji asked with a tinge of arrogance. Yami looked at him with a straight face and said, good enough. That's all Yami said, but Neji could feel that he meant that good enough to be UT. This asshole doesn't leave a single chance to belittle me. Neji thought, and he was going to say something, but he saw Guy and Lee running toward them. As the spandex duo reached Yami and Neji, Neji asked Guy-sensei, Lee, what took you both so long to get here? Neji, we were so engrossed in our training that we lost track of time. Let's not waste more time and go to the mission assignment desk, Guy said, to which everyone nodded. Just as they were about to enter the academy, an Umbu body flickered some distance in front of them. The man said, Mato, Guy and his Genin team are called by Hokage-sama urgently. The mood of the entire team suddenly turned serious. Guy looked behind at his team and said, let's go. If Hokage-sama sent someone to call us, means it's an emergency. Team Guy rushed to the Hokage building. As they came to the floor of Hiruzen's office, Guy was about to ask the receptionist when she said, go in. Hokage-sama's waiting for you, and your team. Guy nodded and entered the office, followed by his 3 Genins. As Team Guy entered the office, they saw that Hiruzen was standing by the window with a letter in his hand. And beside him was Shikaku, and Kakashi was sitting on the window railing. Yo Guy, Yami, Kakashi said in his usual lazy attitude. Seeing Kakashi, a smile bloomed on Guy's face and he greeted back. Yami simply nodded. Hiruzen looked away from the window and then to Guy and his team and said, Guy, at the edge of Land of Fire and Land of Wind are trade routes through which both lands conduct most of their trades. In the past 2 months, 2 merchant caravans have been looted from those routes. For the past few weeks, we didn't know who did it and how they knew about the timing and route of the caravan. 2 days ago, a traitor was found by the Sand Shinobis among the merchants who leaked the information for money. The traitor said that the leader of the bandits is a missing shinobi from the Land of Lightning, and he has unified 3 bandit groups under him. The mission to get rid of the 3 groups and the missing shinobi was going to be carried out by the Sand Shinobis, but the daimyos of Land of Wind and Fire have decided that our village and the Hidden Sand will send 2 jonins and a team of strong genins to take care of this problem. Hokage-sama, if you don't mind me asking, why a team of genins? Guy asked. Before Hiruzen could answer the question, Shikaku answered it. Guy, we had the same question, and then, after some information gathering, we found out that this idea was of the Sand Daimyo, and he is known to be someone who likes to show off. This year a team of genins has been formed in the Hidden Sand. The jonin instructor of this team is Baki. He is one of the advisors of the Kazekage and is also ruthless when it comes to battle. An advisor of the Kazekage as a mere jonin instructor? That's odd, Kakashi interrupted, as even he didn't know this part. Before Team Guy could arrive, Hiruzen had only told him what their mission is. Shikaku's next sentence cleared all doubt. Baki is the jonin instructor because the 3 genins in his team are the Kazekage's kids. Kankuro, Temari, and Gaara. Chapter 42, Leaving for Mission 2. Hearing what Shikaku said, Kakashi and Guy both raised their eyebrows. No one noticed, but Yami had a small smile on his face because he knew that in this mission he will get to meet Gaara and his siblings. Hiruzen and Shikaku gave a few more instructions to Guy and Kakashi. Both of you make sure that whoever the missing shinobi of Land of Lightning is, he must be dealt with. Hiruzen said and then looked at Yami. Yami, Kakashi here tells me that you have lightning affinity as well. If you manage to make a sizable contribution in killing the missing shinobi, then you can have any lightning-related scrolls that he possesses. How does that sound? Crap, I planned to do it the moment I heard about him, but now I have to act like an innocent kid wanting candy? Yami thought, and he squeezed out an innocent smile on his face and said, then I will take that as my personal mission given by you, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen smiled and nodded and then said, the three of you go get ready, as this mission might take a week or two. Yami, on the way inform your brother as well so he isn't worried. Till then I will talk to your sensei and Kakashi. But remember, all of you, this is a B-rank mission and don't tell anyone about this unless you are back from it. I hope you three know how sensitive this mission is. Yami and his teammates nodded and left the Hokage building. Lee and Neji dispersed in the direction of their own home while Yami rushed toward the academy. As he reached the academy, he saw that it was lunchtime and all the students were out of class. Sasuke won't be here in the open as he doesn't like to be bothered. I'll check the roof first. I wish I had some way to sense others individually. Yami entered the academy and headed straight for the roof. On the way, many students saw him and started whispering. Hey, isn't that Sasuke's brother? Yeah, he is Yami. See the headband, he has graduated already. He was the topper in his class. What do you expect? We thought Sasuke is strong, but his kid brother is even stronger. Yami and Sasuke both were used to such comments while Yami was in the academy. Few students even tried to belittle Sasuke, saying that he isn't strong as his younger brother, trying to strike a nerve and even make him jealous. But Sasuke would always beat them up and tell them that he knows. Whenever Yami would see or hear this, he would always think how much Sasuke is different from the anime just because this time he has someone he cares about alive. As Yami reached the roof, he saw Sasuke sitting with his classmates. Even before entering the roof, Yami could hear the loudmouth Naruto's voice. These theory exams are so hard. Why do I need to pass them to become the Hokage? Yami entered the roof and called out to his brother. Sasuke and his classmates looked back, expecting that there was someone from another class here to challenge Sasuke. This was a common thing for them, and Sasuke even entertained such challenges as he would give him chance to try new things on these kids. Huh, Yami, what are you doing here in the academy? Is your next mission here? Sasuke asked. Other classmates of Sasuke also greeted Yami, and Yami greeted them back. Ino was blushing a little, but she was also pouting. It had been almost a year since she had seen Yami, and Yami was still cold to her like always. But she still greeted him, and just getting a nod and a small smile from him was enough to erase all complaints she had in her heart. Seeing that Yami didn't answer his question right away, Sasuke understood that it wasn't something that Yami wanted to say out loud, so he left his group and stood near Yami. I am going on a mission. The mission will last for a week or two. Hearing this, Sasuke frowned. Up to 2 weeks? Aren't newly made genin supposed to do just D-rank missions for a few months? Yes, but this time it is at the borders of the Land of Fire. The mission isn't troublesome, but traveling will take a lot of time. Hearing the assuring words of Yami gave Sasuke relief, so he just patted Yami's shoulder and said, "Take care, brother." Yami left the academy to go to his house and pack his things. There was something he was expecting, and if he knew Kakashi right, then that's what Kakashi must be talking right now. Hokage office. Hokage-sama, as long as Yami is on a mission and Sasuke is alone at the Uchiha compound, one thing worries me, Kakashi said. Shikaku, who knew what he was talking about, nodded in understanding, but Guy was full of confusion as he had no idea what they were talking about. I know, Kakashi, which is why I am going to assign an ambush squad to ensure the safety of the Uchiha compound. I will also talk to Sasuke about setting up barriers. But we will need to do it quietly, Hiruzen said. He didn't hesitate to openly oppose Danzo in front of Kakashi, as when Danzo had plotted to kill Hiruzen, then it was Kakashi who had given Hiruzen the heads up. You will go to the hidden sand village and then formulate a plan among yourselves as you see fit. Both the daimyo's eyes will be on this mission, and the performance of the genins may also get the village many benefits, which in turn will benefit Team Guy immensely in the future. Hiruzen said, to which both the Kakashi and Guy nodded and left the office as well. Shikaku assigned Yugao and Tenzo's Umbu team to guard the Uchiha compound until the barriers are set. I will talk to Sasuke about his today itself. Anything happening to him may impact Yami's growth, and that will impact the future of the Hidden Leaf, Hiruzen said without looking at Shikaku. Chapter 43 Journey to the Hidden Sand. Yami prepared everything he needed for 2 weeks and packed a few storage scrolls. He kept his sword in the storage scroll as well. Running for 2.5 days with a heavy metal sword on his back was not something Yami liked to do. He wasn't like Guy or Lee to strain his physical body to the extreme. He was already using the weight seals that he had bought on the 2nd level. This means it was double the weight he was used to carrying 2 years ago. After getting everything, he walked out of the Uchiha compound and a smile appeared on his face, which he instantly hid. Seems like Hiruzen had an Umbu squad protect the compound. Yami didn't behave anything different that would indicate that he knew that Yugao and Tenzo's squad were there. A 7-year-old sensing them could do a lot of emotional damage to them. Without wasting any time, he reached the gates of the village. He saw that except him everyone was already there. He didn't start running as he knew he was before the assigned time. He maintained his cold and calm demeanor and stood with Kakashi. Why is everyone before the assigned time here? Even you are early today. Yami asked Kakashi, and Guy couldn't help himself giggle. Kakashi couldn't help but make a funny face and say, "What do you mean by that? I am not always late." "I really want to believe you, Mr. Kakashi. This kid will haunt me for the next week." Kakashi sighed. "Let's get going, everyone. Lee, let's see who reaches Sand Village first," Guy said, making Lee excited for no reason. Team Guy and Kakashi started their journey to the Sand Village. If the weather in the Land of Wind is good, then they're expected to reach in 2.5 days. The sandstorms in the Land of Wind can flare up anytime, making the desert seem more like an unending Genjutsu, which is why even idiots like Mike Guy won't take the risk to travel during a sandstorm. 2 days later. The journey until now had been smooth. Kakashi, Neji, and Yami were traveling together at a stable pace while Guy and Lee were having their own little races. Neji tried to stop them many times so they don't embarrass the entire group, but Kakashi said that he has been trying the same thing with Mike Guy and it hasn't done any good. "I couldn't stop Guy when he alone was doing all these antics, then what makes you think you can stop when now there are 2 of them?" Kakashi said. Team Guy and Kakashi reached the edge of the desert. They could see where the forest ends and where the desert starts. Under a tree at the edge, they saw 2 sand shinobis waiting. From their age and personality, one of them was a Jonin and another one was a Chunin. As they saw Yami and the others, they came in front of Team Guy and said, "Are you the Leaf Village shinobis we are supposed to lead to our village?" Kakashi nodded and took out a scroll, passing it to the sand shinobi. He opened the scroll and after reading it gave it back to Kakashi. "You guys are lucky. The sandstorm just cleared up a few hours ago and now the weather seems good. Let's not waste much time and get going," the man said, and Kakashi nodded and everyone followed them to the desert. They didn't even introduce themselves. Neji said, looking at Yami. "They aren't allies because they want to, but because they have to. They are the weakest among the hidden villages and they depend on the Land of Fire for food as it is hard to grow crops in the desert," Yami said. The Sand Chunin heard what Yami said and turned back, glaring at Yami. "Kid, how dare you say that we the Sand Shinobis are the weakest?" The Sand Jonin also heard what Yami said, but he didn't react because he knew that what Yami said was the truth. "Tao, behave yourself," the Sand Jonin said in a stern voice. "Humph. Kid, don't anger me or you won't even know when you will do." Before Tao could complete his sentence, he felt a sting on his neck. He blinked and saw Yami, who was just standing in front of him, was nowhere to be seen. He looked around and saw the Leaf Shinobis and the Sand Jonin all had their eyebrows raised. He looked beside him and saw that Yami was looking at him with his blue eyes and had a kunai pressed to his throat. "I dare you to complete that sentence," Yami said in a cold tone which sent shivers to not just the Tao but also the Sand Jonin. What was that absurd speed? I couldn't even see a blur. It was like he just teleported in front of my eyes. The Sand Jonin thought. Yami let it be. Don't blame him for protecting his village's honor. Kakashi tried to convince Yami, but instead of retreating, Yami stabbed the kunai a little further, making a trail of blood flow from the stab point down. I am sorry, Tao said, and instantly he saw Yami standing in his previous place beside Niji as if nothing had happened. Seems like Gaara isn't the only monster of this generation, the Sand Jonin thought. Cough, let's get going before the climate starts acting up again, Kakashi said, pulling Tao and the Sand Jonin out of their stupor. Seeing all this, Lee was even more motivated to train and then defeat Yami, while Niji was feeling like the mountain he wanted to climb was getting more and more taller. Niji knew that the only thing Yami displayed here was his speed, but in time of battle, speed plays a very important role as it gives you chances to strike the enemy without taking any damage. Chapter 44, Gaara of the Sand. In a big windy desert, 7 people could be seen walking through it. The sun was on the horizon and beads of sweat can be seen on everyone's faces. Even the 2 shinobis wearing Sand Village headbands couldn't help but curse the heat and the dry desert. How much more do we need to walk in this desert? It has already been almost 6 hours. Lee asked as he had used up most of his energy racing with Guy, and now his lips had become dry and he was walking sluggishly. We are almost there. We should be able to see the village walls and entrance any minute now, Tao said. The group had killed a couple of animals who tried to sneak up from underground on the way here. Luckily they had Niji, who with the help of his Byakugan could pinpoint any dangers wandering around them. After a few minutes, an outline of a large wall could be seen. A smile bloomed on the faces of the 3 Genins as they felt they were on their last leg. Although Niji and Yami didn't show, they really couldn't handle the desert. I will have to practice making a thin layer of chakra around my body to protect myself from such extreme weather. Even in my past life, I can tolerate extreme cold but not extreme heat like this, where each grain of sand hits the skin like a hot iron pellet. No wonder Temari carries such a big fan. Sigh. As the group of 7 reached the gates of the hidden sand village, a guard approached Mako and the Sand Jonin. He looked at Yami and the other Lee shinobis and signaled the guards behind him to open the gates. Team Guy and Kakashi were led by the Sand Jonin inside the village. Unlike the Hidden Leaf, the Sand Village was desolate. There weren't many people roaming the roads, and the houses were all the same color. The entire village looked quiet and bland. This village is so much different than our village, Lee said, to which Guy replied, Lee, this village is in the middle of the desert, so the greenery here is non-existent, and the houses made here focus more on safety from storms rather than looks and luxury. You all must be tired after traveling so much, so first I will take you guys to your quarters, and at night you will meet the Kazekage and Senior Baki's team. The Sand Jonin led the group to a hotel that was at the center of the village and looked a bit better than its surrounding buildings. This hotel must have been built especially for diplomats and daimyos to stay when they visit, Kakashi thought as he saw the interior of the hotel. It was heavily guarded and all the guards were Jonin or Chunin. Everyone was assigned their own rooms. After Yami entered the room, he saw that it was a simple room, but all the necessities were made available. Yami was just about to throw himself on the bed as he was very tired, but he heard Kakashi's voice from outside the door and a knock. Yami opened the door and looked at Kakashi with droopy eyes. I know that you are tired. I just came here to tell you that you have shown your skill to Mako, so it won't be surprising that Kazekage and Baki won't know about it by now. So I suggest you watch your back, because we can't rule out the possibility of them trying to harm you, Kakashi said. Got it. I will take care, Yami said, and Kakashi walked away to his own room. Yami knew that news about him must have reached Gaara's ears. He provoked Mako intentionally so that he can attack Mako. This accomplishes 2 things. First will be that when the Kazekage hears it, one other person will hear it too, Yura, who was currently unknowingly spying on the village for Sasori. He will definitely tell Sasori about shinobis from Leaf coming to the hidden sand, and finding out that the kid is an Uchiha. Sasori will inform Itachi. All Yami wanted was one meeting with Itachi before Tsunade becomes the 5th Hokage. The second thing that was accomplished by Yami's show of strength was to indicate the Kazekage and Baki that Yami is impulsive and short-tempered, which was exactly the opposite of what Yami truly was. I hope Yura knows I am an Uchiha before he informed Sasori, Yami thought as he fell asleep on the bed. After a few hours, Yami woke up and saw the sun was about to set. Yami freshened up and wore some loose clothes. He left the room and saw Guy and Kakashi speaking in the lobby with the same Sanjonin. Guy looked back and saw Yami step out of his room and said, "Oh, good Yami that you are here. We both just met the Kazekage. Now we have to go and meet Team Baki so that we can formulate a plan." Two more doors opened and Niji and Lee stepped out of their rooms. Now that everyone was ready, the Sanjonin led the group to an underground prison. The traitor has been locked here and is brought to the interrogation room when Senior Baki and his team is waiting for you guys. After walking for a few seconds, they saw a dimly illuminated room. As they entered, they saw a bruised man tied to a chair in one side of the room, and on the other side they saw a tall man sitting with 3 kids. The man had 2 red tattoos on one side of his face while the other side was covered with a cloth. Yami instantly recognized him as Baki. "My Guy and Kakashi Hatake. It's an honor to meet S-ranked shinobis like you." After that, he looked at Yami and his 2 teammates and signaled them to sit on the chairs opposite them. Beside Baki was his Genin squad: Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara. They all had serious expressions on their face. As Baki's eyes landed on Yami, he said, "You must be Yami Uchiha. Mako told me little about you." Kakashi was about to say something, but Yami put on a smile and said, "I'll take that as a compliment." Hearing this, Baki raised his eyebrows because he had expected an apology or an embarrassed expression and even an arrogant reply, but Yami's response flabbergasted him. Temari and Kankuro frowned hearing this, and Gaara glared at Yami. The group sat in front of each other and the whole room was silent. Their attention was on just one thing: Gaara glaring fiercely at Yami and looking at him with an amused smile. "This kid is not simple at all. Mako, you idiot, giving me half-assed information." Baki cursed in his heart. The last thing he wanted was Gaara to go ballistic and destroy everything around him. Kakashi and Guy didn't know why the rivalry between Yami and Gaara was stressing out Baki so much. They had no idea that Gaara was the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed beast Shikaku. Chapter 45 Mission Planning. Seeing that the atmosphere was tense, Guy said, "Baki, why don't you tell us what all information you actually have? Then we can formulate the plan." Baki looked at Guy and nodded. Seeing this, Yami took his eyes off Gaara and looked at Baki as even he didn't have much information about this mission. Seeing the environment go back to normal, Temari's side, Baki looked at the traitor who was tied in the chair and said, "This is the traitor we caught." He had relayed information about the routes and timings of the caravans to Shinzo Nakamura, who is a missing shinobi from the Land of Lightning. Shinzo has a bounty of 5 million ryo in the bingo book. He is very good at lightning and water jutsus. This merchant has already told us where their base is, but it is an almost impossible place to invade due to it being between 2 mountains and has only 2 exit points which are heavily guarded. Kakashi nodded and asked, "So have you guys formulated a plan to flush them out?" "Yes, we think we all should pose as merchants and take an empty caravan and travel through one of the trade routes and have the merchant leak that information to Shinzo. They will come to loot us and we can counterattack them. They won't expect the caravan to be so heavily guarded. What do you think?" Baki asked. He knew what kind of a ninja Kakashi was. He is the famous copy ninja and has done such undercover missions way more than anyone Baki knows. Kakashi nodded in understanding and looked at Guy and his team and said, "What do you guys think?" "I think the plan is risky, but it is way better than going in the lion's den. By executing this plan, we can take away his home base advantage and fight on the trade routes," Guy said, and Lee nodded vigorously, agreeing with his sensei's statement. "I agree to the plan as well. I can use my Byakugan to make sure that even though they will surround the caravan, we don't face any surprises," Niji said. This was his first mission where the dependency on his eyes will be way more. Or else they might die even without knowing how. So he wanted to express how useful he could be in this plan. Kakashi and Baki nodded, and now all eyes were on Yami. Yami turned to look at the merchant and asked Baki, how many days ago did the last caravan pass? Almost a week, said Baki. Which means this merchant over here hasn't contacted Shinzo for a week. The chances of Shinzo trusting him again after going missing for a week is low. This means probably he himself won't come to loot the caravan, as he doesn't have any regard for the lives of the bandits of those two groups. He didn't create them, just had them cooperate for the sake of profit. Secondly, this is the most obvious way to entangle them, Yami said, making them nod in understanding. Baki wanted to say something, but Kankuro beat him to the punch and said, what do you mean the most obvious way? Our village has lost a lot of resources because of this, and we also lost 1 jonin and 4 chunin to Shinzo. And many more genins to the bandits. Now that's interesting, Yami said with a smile which made Kankuro even angrier. He felt like Yami had no remorse for the lives lost while the caravan was looted. What do you mean, kid? Baki said in a heavy voice. His expression had darkened the moment he saw that the death of his shinobis didn't affect the expression on Yami's face. Instead, he had a smile on his face. A missing shinobi who is good in lightning and water jutsu was able to kill 1 jonin and 4 chunin but has a bounty of only 5 million ryo? Does that sound the right price for a missing shinobi, Mr. Kakashi? Yami asked, making everyone's eyes widen. Why you mean? Kankuro was about to say when Temari said he isn't a missing shinobi from the land of lightning but their spy. What you are saying isn't impossible, but it's still too much of a stretch, Kakashi said. Yes, Kakashi is right. We have no proof of that, and why would a spy do things so openly? Wouldn't hiding from others give him more info? Baki asked. Not if his mission isn't to spy but to create problems in the alliance between Hidden Leaf and Hidden Sand. The conclusions Yami was coming up to shocked everyone. Yami had come to such a conclusion with very little information. Baki wanted to deny it, but he couldn't because the way Yami was saying it, things started to make sense. The Hidden Sand was already low on resources, and now with caravans getting looted they were falling in a deeper pit. What you are saying, Yami, is mere conjecture. Is there any way to prove it? Kakashi asked. There are many, but doing anything without more information would be reckless. I need more information, Yami said, massaging his chin. This kid is the youngest among us all, but still the way his mind works trumps those old advisors in our village. Even on the last leg, the Uchiha clan is not to be underestimated. Baki thought. We have interrogated the merchant and he has given all the information he has. Lady Chiyo herself conducted the questioning, Temari said in a proud tone. She thought Yami was indicating that the Hidden Sand didn't investigate properly. This merchant isn't the one who will give us information, Yami said. Then who? Kankuro asked with a frown on his face. Yami looked at Kakashi with a smile on his face and said, Mr. Kakashi, seems like you, me, and Niji need to visit the Valley of Bandits. How good are you at sneaking in? Kakashi sighed and said, kid, you are making me work a lot. I am also writing a novel called Soul Spirit Ascension, so please read it and shower it with power stones. Chapter 46, The Bandit Valley. What? Infiltrating the valley filled with bandits? That's the worst idea, Kankuro said, standing up from his seat. Each and every inch of the family was covered with bandits, so no one would even think about going near it, much less infiltrate it. Kakashi nodded and said, Yami, I agree with what Kankuro is saying. No one in their sane mind will think of it. Yami looked at everyone agreeing with Kakashi's statement and said even Shinzo will think the same thing. And the first rule of planning is to hit where they never expect it. Yami, why only you three? Why can't me and Guy-sensei come with you? Lee asked. He thought that Yami was looking down on him and Guy because they can't use chakra like others. Although Yami has never said anything to disrespect him and Guy, now they were a team, so they need to face everything together. You and Guy-sensei are fighting type of shinobi. We don't want to fight them. I need Niji because of his Byakugan and his ability to seal a person's chakra points, making it easy to kidnap them. Mr. Kakashi used to be an Umbu leader, which means he has experience in infiltration more than anyone else present here. Yami said. Telling about Kakashi being an Umbu in front of Sand Shinobis may not be a good move, but Yami knew that the Sand Shinobis won't even dare to take any misstep to hurt Kakashi, and Kakashi, even if caught, will never spill any secrets. Yami, is there any other way for us to proceed without any of us personally risking your life to enter the valley? Guy asked. He understands that in terms of infiltration there is nothing he can do. There is, but it could potentially lead to the destruction of the hidden sand. Yami dropped a bomb on all the people present. Even Gaara, who had a calm expression on his face, widened his eyes. What are you talking about? The destruction of our village? How can you come to this conclusion? Baki bombarded Yami with his questions. Kakashi stopped him and asked Yami again. Yami, this is a big statement you are making. What is your train of thought behind this? I know you won't come to such a conclusion without carefully thinking about the chain of events. Yami looked at the merchant again, who by now was already unconscious, and said the plan is for this merchant to gain Shinzo's complete trust. But you just said that Shinzo wouldn't trust him. Then how can you change that? Temari asked. Yami looked at her and said the only way is for this merchant to give Shinzo priceless information. The information about us, 5 Leaf Shinobi coming here. Among whom one is me, an Uchiha, and another one is Niji, a Hyuga. The Land of Lightning has always been interested in Dojutsu, especially the Byakugan. And Mr. Kakashi and Gai Sensei are S-rank shinobis, which means killing them will lower the strength of the hidden leaf by a notch. The Land of Lightning won't waste such an opportunity. After this information gets there, they will have 3 options to deal with it. Yami, that would be like serving our head on a platter. But what are these options you speak of? Kakashi asked. First option will be to abandon Shinzo and let us kill him. Even though Shinzo says that he isn't a traitor but a spy, the Land of Lightning can simply deny it. No one can enforce it on them. The second option is to have him escape. But they know that once this is done, Shinzo will be of no use to the ninja world. His cover of being a spy will be blown if they help him out, and he can't be reinstated as a shinobi of their village, as they themselves registered him as a traitor. The third option, and the one that will likely take place, is that when they find out about our presence here, they will send their own shinobis disguised as bandits to help Shinzo kill all of us. And what do you think will happen if we kill them instead? Yami asked everyone. I didn't think something like this could blow up into a full-blown war. But what you said does make sense. Baki said. Can't they help Shinzo by disguising their people like bandits? In this way they won't expose their connection to the Land of Lightning, and even save Shinzo by keeping his cover, the Sand Shinobi, who was quiet during this whole discussion, said. What difference does it make if they send to rescue them? Means that the disguised bandits won't be strong enough to fight all of us. We still kill them and Land of Lightning suffers a loss, but in this way so many Land of Lightning shinobis ending up dead at the border of Land of Wind in bandit costumes will be like telling the whole world that they plant spies as traitors. This would be the worst idea, and that's why I didn't mention it, Yami said, making the Sand Shinobi have a little embarrassed expression. Yami, Niji, get ready, we are infiltrating the Bandit Valley. Kakashi said as he stood up. Now that he had heard all the options Yami gave, he started to understand why Yami wanted to infiltrate the valley. What kind of a monster is this kid? Is he really just 7 years old? Baki, Temari, and Kankuro had the same thought. In terms of strength, he was already ahead of me, but now seeing how he thinks, I am nowhere near him. I can't even imagine myself thinking like him. Niji thought, which made him feel a little bit more agitated. It was like a mountain named Yami was hammering his head every time he does something. Even though you 3 are going to infiltrate, the rest of us 7 will come to, but keep a safe distance. If you need to be bailed out, just give the signal. Baki said, standing up. He didn't expect that the Leaf Shinobis who would be coming here would start to execute their plans the same night. Chapter 47: Infiltrating the Valley. Yami and Niji were in a room getting ready to infiltrate the valley. They had removed anything that could identify them as a Leaf Shinobi if seen. Niji's eyes were the only thing that would indicate that he is a Hyuga. Instead of the regular gray clothes he wears, now he was wearing a black shirt and pants and a black mask covering his nose and mouth. Yami had worn an oversized black cloak. "Is it necessary to do this?" Niji asked. "Yeah, even if we fail we can't let them know we are on a mission from the Hidden Leaf," Yami said, tapping his sword on the back. "He is even younger than me, and just like me this is his first time outside the village." Niji thought. "Yami, how do you know so much when this is your first mission?" Niji asked with doubt. "My family members wrote diaries which contained their experiences during missions. I read those for the past 3 years, due to which I accumulated so much knowledge about the things outside the village," Yami said with a straight face, but in his head, he was face-palming himself. "Why do I forget that I am a 7-year-old? Luckily Kakashi was a prodigy himself, so he won't feel too shocked to see my performance." Yami sighed. While Yami was thinking all this, the door opened and Kakashi stepped in. He had also removed his usual Jonin attire and had worn a cloak. "So are both of you ready?" Kakashi asked. "Yup," Niji said, and Yami nodded. "Yami reminds me so much of Itachi. The only difference is that Yami is way more sharp and direct than Itachi," Kakashi thought. He had worked with Itachi for a few years and Itachi had made quite an impression on him because of his polite and calm nature. Kakashi, even after all these years, could find the fact that Itachi slaughtered his clan doubtful. "So Mr. Kakashi, what's the plan of infiltration?" Yami asked. Even though he had seen the anime and even come to the conclusion of infiltrating the valley, Yami knew that none of it would compare to the hands-on experience Kakashi had in infiltration at his time in the Umbu. So he decided to leave the planning to the adults. Guy, Lee, Baki, and his team all are waiting downstairs. We can discuss the plan when we are with them. Remember Yami, even though you are smart and skilled, you need to learn to trust your teammates," Kakashi said. "Even though Guy is my sensei, Kakashi is the one who behaves like that. Guy is a simple person, he wouldn't be able to handle me anyways," Yami thought. After a few minutes, the trio left the room and walked downstairs, where they saw 7 of them waiting. They had worn their normal outfit with headbands showing their village. They didn't need any kind of disguise. Baki nodded at Kakashi and said, "Now that we all are here, what is our step-by-step plan?" Everyone huddled around Kakashi to listen to the plan. Even Gaara decided to hear the plan, which shocked Temari and Kankuro a little. Gaara's arrogance was not foreign to them. Even as his siblings, Gaara never gave them any importance. Kakashi started explaining his plan step by step. The remaining 9 had several changes in their expressions. Sometimes they would have a confused expression, or a frown, or they would raise their eyebrows. All in all, the plan could be called a roller coaster of emotions. In the end, everyone decided that even though it was a bit crazy plan, it had the best outcome. At 12:00 midnight, a group of 10 people exited the gates of the Hidden Sand. After traveling for a while, they divided into 2 groups, with one group having 7 people while the other one having 3 people wearing complete black. The 7 people were spreading around the valley's entrance, but they were also keeping a safe distance so as to not get spotted by anyone guarding the valley. "I hope Plan A fails and we have to resort to Plan B," Gaara thought, as his frustration of being a mere guard like his siblings in this mission was increasing every passing minute. Of the other 3 people running in complete black, the one in the front was Kakashi. He stayed in front because as a Jonin only he would have the reaction time to deflect an attack coming toward them or even during an ambush. In the middle was Niji, who was switching his Byakugan on and off every 10 seconds. He was being protected by his 2 teammates because his entire attention was focused on the people around him and could be guarding the valley. The chances of someone guarding a little far from the valley is low, but it's still a good practice to confirm it. The person on the rear end of the trio was Yami. He was told no to do anything for now, as when the infiltration starts, he would need to be at his peak physical health and full of chakra. While they were running, suddenly Niji said, "Stop, there are 3 people there. They seem to be sitting approximately 200 m away from us," pointing at the direction the people were present. Kakashi nodded and looked back and said, "Yami, you and I will sneak attack them. Remember, then shouldn't make a single noise. What if I use Genjutsu? Yami asked. Using Genjutsu on 3 bandits was no biggie for Yami. He could have them kill each other, but they might talk in real life as well, which would be a problem. He can have them just stand blankly, but that could consume a significant amount of mana. No, don't waste your mana before we even start the mission, Kakashi said, and Yami nodded. Neji, keep an eye out if and let us know if anyone other than those 3 are around. Kakashi gave Neji the task only he could do. Neji nodded and jumped on a tree to look around. Yami, go for the head directly. Don't even let them know what hit them, Kakashi said, and ran toward the 3 bandits. Yami followed him. After getting a bit closer, even Yami could sense the chakra fluctuations in them. 2 were weak, means they were Chunin or below, and 1 was low Chunin level. Yami unsheathed his sword and was ready to attack. He was just waiting for a signal from Kakashi. Chapter 48 Planned Assassinations. The 3 bandits were sitting around a campfire drinking and talking. 2 of them were Chunin level and 1 was low Chunin. Yami tried to hear what they were talking about while sneaking closer. Hey, you think we will be safe here far from the valley? The one with Chunin level strength asked. Don't worry, no one dares to come here and create problems. We are currently part of the biggest bandit group in the Land of Fire and Wind, the Chunin level assured. Hey, go get me some booze. I have finished mine, the Chunin level ordered the remaining Chunin level bandit, who was surrounded by beer bottles. The Chunin level bandit didn't want to but had to listen to his superior, so he turned back to pick a bottle. As he turned back, he heard klashuk. Stabbing sound, thud. He looked back and saw the Chunin level bandit had a kunai stabbed in his neck, and he was trying his best to say something, but not a single sound could escape his mouth. This entire mouth was flooded with his own blood. Beside him, where the other Chunin level bandit was sitting, there was a headless corpse and its head rolling toward the fire. Blood was spraying from the headless corpse's neck and the body fell down backward. The bandit was too drunk to react quickly, but seeing so much blood sobered him instantly. He was about to scream for help, but noticed that his vision, which was at eye level, was looking down when he didn't even move his neck. Then the bandit saw his vision rolling round and round until he saw his own headless corpse and 2 people standing on either side of it. Both of them had worn cloaks, but the bandit noticed instantly that the one who had a sword in his hand had red eyes. That's the last thing the bandit was able to see. The entire attack took only 3 seconds from start to finish. Yami waved his sword in the air and removed any blood on it. He sheathed his sword while Kakashi removed the kunai he had stabbed in the Chunin bandit's neck. Good work, Yami. 2 clean decapitations within 3 seconds is truly impressive, Kakashi said. Yami turned off his Sharingan and nodded. Neji appeared from the forest and saw all the blood and corpses, which made him uncomfortable. No matter how much practice a shinobi does, seeing blood for the first time overwhelms them. Neji quickly turned back, and as he felt he needed to see the puke. After a few minutes, he returned back to the crime scene and said, we need to keep moving. I don't sense anyone near us right now. Yami looked at Kakashi and said, you take the heads so that we can find their identity later and go with Neji. I will take care of the bodies without making much noise. Kakashi was too reluctant to let Yami do it alone, but he knew that destroying a corpse without making noise and fire is next to impossible, but Yami said that he had a method, so Kakashi decided to trust him and nodded. Kakashi and Neji left in the direction of the valley after collecting the 3 heads and a storage scroll. Yami dragged the 3 bodies by their legs to the forest. He searched them and found some low-level tools and a few thousand ryo. Yami threw away the tools and kept the money. His pocket money was never enough for him. No one is around here, so this might be the best time to devour them, Yami thought. He wasn't going to let such a good chance to increase his chakra reserve slip. Yami stretched his hand and activated his devouring law. Firstly, he devoured the corpses of the 2 Junins. That didn't increase his chakra reserves much, but brought him to the borderline of Jonin level chakra. After that, Yami devoured the corpse of the Chunin, which brought his chakra to a low Jonin level. Yami wasn't too happy with it, as it only gave him more chakra but didn't improve any of his physical strength. Seems like these 3 were too weak to give me anything. Yami thought as he blew away their ashes. Yami ran in the same direction that Kakashi and Neji left. After running for a few seconds, he saw them sitting under a tree. He jumped down in front of them, spooking Neji, who quickly went into alert mode. "Relax, it's just me. Why are you both waiting here?" Yami asked. 150 m from us are the patrol guards of the bandits. You know what to do, right? Kakashi asked, to which Yami smiled, which according to Neji sent a shiver down his spine. Yami quickly body flickered away in the direction Kakashi had pointed him to. "You stay here till he brings them here and I will execute the next step of our plan," Kakashi said, and body flickered as well. Yami had reached near the two patrolling bandits. They weren't like the previous drunkards. These two had Chunin levels of strength. They had serious expressions of their face and had a machete as a weapon. Yami threw a small stone in the forest to get their attention. As the sound of the rock falling and the leaves rustling reached the bandits' ears, they quickly looked at one spot in the forest. Yami cast a sound-based genjutsu on them, which made them hear sounds that someone was running away from them while making a lot of noise. "Seems like some idiot wandered here and is now trying to escape," the bandit said to the other one. "Ha, let's hunt him then. Maybe he will have something valuable," the other one said, and entered the jungle. Both the bandits entered the jungle and knew that they shouldn't go too far from their patrol position. According to them, they were walking around the patrol position searching for the idiot who wandered in the jungle, but in reality, they had already left their patrol post and were running straight toward Neji. Kakashi used this opportunity to sneak inside the Valley of Bandits. Chapter 49, Plan A. Neji will incapacitate the guards and seal their chakra points. Plan A has officially started, Yami said. Yami too decided to enter the valley behind Kakashi. As he was going in, he sensed someone ahead of him. After a few seconds, the figure was clear and it was one of the guards that Yami had taken out. The only difference was that this one had a ribbon on his wrist. Yami landed in front of the figure and said, "Mr. Kakashi, were you able to figure out the inside terrain?" This guard was none other than Kakashi, who had used transformation jutsu so that he could openly explore the valley. The ribbon on the wrist is to show Yami and other shinobis that he is an ally. Yami, you transform yourself into the other guard and explore this area. I am going ahead to the middle of the valley. Maybe I can find Shinzo there. Remember not to kill anyone. If you end up fighting anyone, then use the flare so that everyone will know that Plan A has failed," Kakashi said, to which Yami nodded. He performed some hand seals and transformed into the other guard. Kakashi's body flickered away and the transformed Yami was walking in the nearby tents. Most of the bandits were staying in tents that could fit 2 to 3 people. As Yami was walking around, he heard someone coming from behind. He didn't have to hide or anything, so he simply looked back. He saw a bandit almost drunk coming toward him. He had a bottle of alcohol in his hand. "Hey. Genji, what are you doing here?" "I thought you were on guard duty today," the man said. Yami was confused as he didn't know what to say. "At least I know that the guard I am transformed in is named Genji," Yami thought. He looked at the drunk man who was standing right in front of him. "Yes, I was, but I gave it to someone else," Yami said. "You always do this and leave Daisuke to guard the borders with some newly recruited idiot. Haha, Genji, you bastard. Come, let's have a drink. Others are also there and I heard that boss will be drinking with us as well," the man said. "So the other guard's name is Daisuke. And what does this drunkard mean by the boss? I don't think he was talking about Shinzo. Seems like he was talking about the boss of this bandit group. I remember Baki told us that Shinzo controls 2 bandit groups. Let's see how the boss of the first bandit group is." "Okay, let's go," Yami said, and the man led Yami to a group of tents. As Yami was getting close to the cluster of tents, he could hear many people's voices. The man along with Yami made his way through a couple of tents and both of them came into an open space among the tents. There was a campfire in the middle and 10 to 20 people were sitting on wooden logs around it. Among them was a burly man. He had a lot of jewelry around his neck and on his fingers. He looked at Yami and the drunkard beside him and said, "Haha, Genji, Eiko, both of you bastards are late today. So this drunkard's name is Eiko. Yami thought when Eiko said while patting Yami's shoulder, "Boss, I was drinking in my tent and Genji here was on guard duty, but he gave it to some newbie." The boss, who was tipsy himself, didn't give it much attention and said, "I don't think anyone will have the guts to even come near the valley. Even those sand shinobis will run with tails between their legs if we attack them." Yami was going to say something, but suddenly he heard a sound from inside the valley. Everyone turned their heads toward the middle section of the valley and saw a red flare go up in the sky. None of the bandits, including their boss, knew what this flare was for, but Yami knew it very well because it symbolized the failure of Plan A and the commencement of Plan B. Flashback to an hour ago, Team Guy, Kakashi, Team Baki, and the Sand Jonin were huddled together to listen to the plan Kakashi had in mind. None of the shinobi present there had any doubt in Kakashi's abilities. Kakashi looked at everyone who had a grim expression on their face and said, "As Yami said, our priority should be to collect information, so for that I have prepared Plan A. This plan is the safest and without any bloodshed. In this plan, except me, Niji, and Yami, all of you will block the exits of the valley from a safe distance. Me and Yami will take care of the people near the bordering forest. Niji will follow us, but he will be a pure scout. When we reach the border of the valley, then Yami will incapacitate the guards from a single region and drag them to Niji. Niji, you will block their chakra points and keep them hostage. When there is no guard in the single region, I will enter the valley and Yami will follow me as well. We both will transform ourselves into the guards that Yami just kidnapped, and then he will explore the areas near him and I will go deeper. To distinguish ourselves as transformed shinobi, we will both wear ribbons on our wrist." Baki listened to the plan quietly, and it wouldn't be lie to say that he was impressed with how properly this plan was thought out. The Sand Jonin was also impressed, but he seemed to have some doubts about it, so he said, "Your entire Plan A requires everyone to not even let them detect us, nor can any of us fight. But what if something goes wrong and they find out that the valley has been infiltrated?" Kakashi looked at everyone and confirmed that everyone had a small amount of doubt as well. Everyone here were shinobi, and to tell them to do something without fighting or being detected wasn't an easy task. Kakashi's voice became serious as he said, "That's when we start with Plan B." Chapter 50. Plan B. In the darkness of the night, a flare was seen up in the sky. At one side of the valley, transformed Yami, who was seated with a drunk bandit group along with its leaders, saw this flare. "Size, seems like it's time to sleep, guys," Yami said in a tired voice. He personally didn't want to go to Plan B as it was messy and filled with uncertainty. Yami didn't like surprises, and now with Plan B he needed to be ready to fight anyone in the valley, including an envoy from the Cloud Village if their timing is bad. The bandits around Yami heard this and looked at him and asked, "What do you mean, Genji?" The boss also looked at Yami as they didn't know what this flare was about. It didn't seem like an attack nor a call for reinforcements, so they looked for Yami for an answer. The next second, in front of everyone, Yami disappeared. Where did he go?" a couple of bandits asked and looked around. The boss threw the bottle of booze he had in his hand and pulled out the dagger that was on his waist. He also wanted to find Yami, but he had a bad premonition, and then suddenly one of the bandits' voice caught his attention. "See, he is up there," a bandit said. They didn't know when he jumped so up. They saw him perform some hand seals which made the boss clench the dagger even more, and then boom. A large fireball enough to cover everyone present there came out of Yami's mouth. The next thing the bandits saw was too much brightness, and they were enveloped by it before they could make any sound. Outside the valley, Niji was sitting under a tree, and beside him were the two guards Genji and Daisuke, who Yami had lured from the border patrol. They were unconscious and had their chakra points sealed by Niji. After 15 minutes of capturing them, Niji saw a flare come out of the valley. This is in the middle part of the valley, which means it was Mr. Kakashi that shot this flare. Anyways, I don't need to keep these two bandits ollie. As Niji was thinking, he saw a small red glow coming from one end of the valley, which was closest to where Yami and Kakashi had entered. Seems like Yami is in a conflict as well, Niji thought, and quickly pulled out a kunai. He looked at the unconscious bandits and was about to stab the kunai in his heart when he stopped some centimeters from his heart. "This is the first time I am taking a life. I feel nervous. No, I shouldn't." Yami killed the first time as well today and now there he is killing more of them. I can't fall behind. Neji thought, and with 2 swift motions, he stabbed the 2 guards. On the other side of the valley, Team Baki and the Sand Jonin saw the flare as well. The light of the fireball wasn't too big from their perspective, but they still noticed it. Baki, you go with Gaara from the left and me along with Temari and Kankuro will take the right side. Might Guy along with his student Rock Lee will jump in the middle from the mountain to assist Kakashi, the Sand Jonin said. Baki nodded and asked, I don't know why jumping into the valley from the mountain is such a good idea for those 2. They can't even use chakra. I don't know that, but Kakashi himself said that Guy and Lee will jump from the top, which means he is confident in their physical capabilities and the mountain isn't steep enough that they would have to make a straight jump down. Let's get to work faster. Neji can't enter the valley until Yami meets him at the border. No matter how talented, they're still Genins who graduated this year. They have strict instructions not to split until the second signal is given, the Sand Jonin said, and then looked at Temari and Kankuro, who were both nervous. He then left with both of them. Baki looked at Gaara and said, let's go Gaara. Finish the bandits before the other groups. Gaara looked at Baki and then at the valley and said, Mother wants their blood. Yami had just thrown a fireball at a group of bandits. As he landed on the ground, he saw that almost all of the bandits had burned to a crisp. They weren't even worth devouring. Yami thought as he heard some rustling. He looked at the side and saw a burnt piece of flesh crawling among the burnt corpses. Yami walked toward it and noticed that the man had melted gold on some of his body parts which had burned through his skin. This seems like the boss. Let's try to devour him. Yami thought as he activated his devouring law and touched the crawling piece of flesh, but nothing happened. Seems like to devour a person she needs to be dead. Yami said, and with a slash of the kunai he cut the head off. He also searched his body for any storage scrolls where either they burned like everything else or he wasted it all on gold. Yami again tried to devour him and this time he succeeded. My body seems physically stronger, but my chakra capacity didn't increase at all. There are many things about this law that I don't understand. Yami thought as he left the scene. He was walking toward the border as he had to meet Neji first and then take care of the rest of the guards on this side of the valley. He was still in his transformed form and he decided to keep it that way. As Yami was walking, he sensed 3 people coming toward him. He saw that those 3 were guards as well. Yami went in front of them and said, Guys, what do you think is happening back in the valley? Chapter 51, Regrouping with Neji. The bandits who just met Yami looked at each other and asked, We don't know. We just came from patrol. Who care what they are doing? They may be fighting over some money. We haven't killed and plundered in the past few days. Seems like I need to pay a visit to the nearest village and kill some idiots for fun, he said while smacking his lips. Looks like they had strict orders to only plunder those caravans and nothing else. My doubt about Shinzo being a spy is becoming more fixed by every passing movement. Yami thought. Hey idiot, what are you in a daze for? Which bandit group are you from? A burly man among the 3 asked. He was standing behind the other 2 bandits. As he said that, Yami could see greed in the eyes of the 3 people flash instantly. The burly man had a big axe on his shoulder while the other 2 had spears. Yami took out a kunai from his pocket and rushed straight toward the burly man. The other 2 were slow to react, but the burly man's eyes widened. He hacked the axe in front of him to split Yami's head in 2, but Yami kicked one of the bandits on his cheek, which wasn't meant to damage him but for Yami to change his trajectory midair. Yami swirled left, easily dodging the axe. The burly bandit saw it and lifted up the axe again and swiped it horizontally to the side, aiming at Yami's stomach. Yami quickly increased his speed and appeared behind the burly bandit. He crouched down and with his kunai slashed the bandit's knee joints and even his thigh. Ag! The burly bandit shouted while gritting his teeth. Due to the sudden attack on his knee, he lost his balance and had to use the big axe as support. Yami knew this would happen and an opening would appear for a second or 2. And as he predicted, it happened. Yami covered his kunai with wind chakra and threw it, making a big hole in his neck. The angle of attack was adjusted so well that after penetrating the burly bandit's neck, it lodged itself into one of the other bandits' heart. How? The bandit asked, kneeling on the ground looking at the kunai in his heart, and then he collapsed. The last bandit was shocked seeing all this and had almost peed his pants. Please done, don't kill me. The last bandit started begging. Yami didn't want to leave any eyewitnesses. This was the main rule of Plan B. No one should be able to tell what happened tonight in the Valley of Bandits. Yami devoured the 3 corpses but didn't gain any mana capacity, but he could feel something different about his body. He decided to ignore it for now. Yami continued on his path toward the boundary, and after a few seconds, he sensed a few people fighting. He undid his transformation technique and continued in the direction of the fight. Niji found some bandits to entertain himself. Yami thought as he reached near the fight. He was sitting on a branch and watching the fight. Niji was fighting with 2 bandits. One of them used his fists to fight while the other had daggers. Short-range and melee opponents. You're lucky, Niji, but... Yami said, but he noticed something. He quickly jumped down and stabbed a kunai into a bandit's back. Ack, what the hell, the bandit screamed as he looked behind. He was the one with the daggers. He quickly jumped back and stood with the other bandit at a distance. Niji saw this and said in a slightly irritated tone, why did you have to interfere? I was handling both of them without much problem. Yami didn't reply and stomped his leg on the ground and disappeared. Where's the kid? The injured bandit thought, and suddenly he saw Yami in front of him. He saw Yami's Sharingan, but before he could say anything, Yami punched his chest hard. All the air from his lungs escaped in a moment. He tried to catch his breath, but he couldn't breathe. Niji and the other bandit were also confused as to what happened. Niji switched on his Byakugan and looked at the bandit, and the only word that came out of his mouth was too cruel. Yami hit the bandit so hard that 3 ribs broke from the cage and punctured the bandit's lung. He can't breathe because blood is filling his lungs. Niji thought as he was looking at the bandit who was vomiting blood and laying on the ground. Niji decided that he will be the one to kill the other bandit, so he looked toward the other one, but he saw that Yami had killed him by cutting his throat. Niji looked at Yami and those red eyes and wanted to say something but couldn't. Yami noticed Niji's hesitation and said, the reason I stepped in was that his dagger had poison on it and you have a few cuts on your body with a purple tint. Get them treated fast or you will become a burden inside the valley. Niji looked and saw that he did have a few scratches and the poison had made the area around it purple. He looked at Yami and said, thanks then. This looks like normal snake poison. I will put some ointment on it. Yami nodded and said, I'll dispose of these corpses till you're done. Niji looked at Yami once and then proceeded to put the ointment on his wounds. Yami searched the dead bandits and found some money and ration pills. Ration pills shouldn't be available to normal people or even bandits. Except for shinobi, no one uses them and each village has a recipe for its own ration pills. Maybe this could be a ration pill from the Land of Lightning. Yami thought as he dragged the 2 corpses deep into the jungle and devoured them. Everyone else must have gotten to the juicy part of the mission. Time for me to join them as well. Yami thought as he pulled out his sword and scabbard from a storage scroll and tied it to his back. Chapter 52 Mixed Bandits. After devouring the 2 corpses, Yami met up with Niji, who had just finished applying the ointment. According to Kakashi's plan, they moved in a zigzag pattern. Niji used his Byakugan to locate the bandits and Yami would go and kill them. They didn't find many, as many of them were already killed by the fireball at the campfire. The 2 Genins tried to find out whether there was anything that would give them any information, but the bandits were simple barbarians. Except for money and booze, nothing could be found. As Niji was with Yami every step of the way, Yami couldn't devour a single corpse. But he wasn't too disappointed as he started dumping the corpses in a single scroll. Niji was a little frustrated as he didn't get to fight at all. He was just a censor. Due to the constant need for the Byakugan during this mission, Kakashi felt that the less Niji uses anything other than Byakugan, the better. Yami, I can see 8 people fighting ahead. Seems like we caught up to Guy Sensei and Lee. Niji said. Great, let's go fast so that we start the next phase of the plan. Yami said and bolted toward the direction Niji had just pointed to. As Yami reached there, he saw 3 bandits already lying on the ground. 2 were fighting with Guy and 1 was fighting Lee. Lee was having a hard time because his opponent was using Earth-style jutsus. Lee had just kicked through an earth wall and the bandit had managed to create another one. As far as I remember, Earth is weak to lightning. Yami thought as he unsheathed his sword and started to pass lightning chakra through it. The sword glowed a little and a few arcs of lightning were dancing around it, making light sounds of a whip. Yami ran to the bandit with enough speed to startle the bandit and slashed horizontally. The sword went through the wall of the earth like a hot knife through butter. It also slashed the chest area of the bandit. The cut on his chest was shallow, but there was still bleeding. He took a few steps back and touched his wound because of the pain. You, brat, the bandit said, gnashing his teeth, but then he heard a voice from behind. Did you forget me by any chance? Lee asked the bandit as he kicked his face hard enough to break the man's jaw. The man flew and slammed to the ground. He was on his last breath. Yami looked at Guy and saw that his sensei had taken care of the remaining 2 bandits. Guy walked to his students and said, "You guys did very good. This is youth." Lee had a proud expression as he heard his sensei's praise. Yami, you go ahead and find Kakashi. We 3 will take care of the bandit group around here. Remember that Kakashi may still be transformed into the patrol bandit or some other bandit, so look for the ribbon. Guy said, and Yami nodded. He performed some hand seals and transformed into a bandit which was laying dead near him. The bandit had a sword on his back as well. So Yami transformed into him. This way it won't be too suspicious. Yami tied a ribbon on his wrist and ran toward the center of the valley from where the flare had originated. As Yami was running, he passed through many bandits, but no one bothered with him as everything was in chaos because of the attack, and Yami looked like one of their own. After a few seconds, Yami heard a few explosions at a distance. He rushed toward it and saw a few people dead laying on the ground. These people have worn clothes like bandits, but something feels off about it. Yami crouched down and inspected the corpse and saw that the person's body was very well groomed and the tools in his pouch were of high quality. These aren't any run-of-the-mill bandits. These are well-trained shinobis. I can't take away these bodies with me like the bandits, as these were killed by Kakashi and he may want to identify these people after reaching the village. Yami thought. Yami decapitated the corpses and stored the cut heads. He devoured the rest of the bodies as fast as possible and left the place. As he was running, he thought, the feeling I am getting now after devouring bodies isn't related to my chakra in any way. This feels completely different, but I can't even touch it. As Yami got closer, the sounds of fight became more louder. He suddenly heard loud noise which he had heard many times in the canon. This is the sound of Chidori, Yami said. Yami saw Kakashi standing alone in front of 5 people. They all had tan skin and lightning was dancing around their body. Kakashi was breathing lightly. There were 3 corpses around Kakashi. Looks like all these people are from the land of lightning. Kakashi has already killed 3 of them. Why did he use lightning-style jutsu in front of them? Shouldn't he use wind-style? Yami thought. Among the 5 people, 1 wore bandit clothes while the rest had plain black cloaks. A little similar to the ones Yami, Niji, and Kakashi were wearing. It was clear that the people wearing the cloak were here to get information from Shinzo, who was most probably the one wearing the bandit clothes. Haha, Kakashi the copy ninja. Who would have thought that you would come here? I guess the Sand Village asked help from the Leaf and the village sent you to investigate. You made a mistake coming here, Kakashi. Now that you know who you will die. Shinzo said. Shinzo, you aren't as smart as you think you are. Tell me, what is the purpose of the Land of Lightning's interference in a foreign land? Kakashi asked. Want to read more chapters? Chapter 53, Saving Temari. A dying man doesn't need to know much, Kakashi. You. Shinzo was saying when he noticed Yami was listening to the whole conversation. He recognized Yami as one of the bandits and said, "Hey, you idiot, what are you doing there listening to us talking? Where are the others who were with you? Yami quickly regained his composure and said some are dead while the others are fighting. Oh, so Kakashi, you do have some more people with you. Shinzo said, and then he looked at the two guys on his left and said, we three can handle things here, you two go and take care of things outside. The two guys on the left nodded and headed toward Yami. Follow me, Yami said and ran toward the other side of the valley. Yami didn't use any chakra and ran like a normal bandit would. The two people were running behind him. Can't you go faster? One of the cloaked men asked in an irritated voice. Yami was currently leading them toward Temari, Kankuro, and the Sand Jonin. He knew that Baki and Gaara will be killing their way in while Temari and Kankuro may take some time and the Sand Jonin will be more focused on their well-being rather than killing the enemies. Yami made a silly face and a smile and said, I am not much of a strong bandit. How can I compare with people like you who use chakra? How many people are there? The other man asked. His voice was calm but heavy. Yami, without turning back, said, it's 2 kids and a man. They all use chakra, which is why we are having problems dealing with them. These useless people. I don't know why Shinzo keeps them around, the first cloaked man said. After a few seconds, Yami was able to sense a few people fighting and the wind in that area was also chaotic, which meant Temari was using her fan. If they see my ribbon, they may react and give away my identity unknowingly. Yami thought, and he covered the ribbon with his black sleeve. He was confident enough to take care of these 2 people single-handedly, but no matter how much he practices, his experience is still low, so it wasn't a risk worth taking. As Yami with the other 2 reached closer, the cloaked men accelerated toward the fight. Seems like they sense the fight now and want to get rid of them with a sneak attack. That could be a problem. Yami panicked a little. Because even though the Sand Shinobis aren't friends of his, they are allies with mutual interests, so Yami will have to make a move now. The first cloaked man was impatient and wanted to get rid of the 3 Sand Shinobis quickly. The second cloaked man was moving at a steady pace. According to Yami, he will take care of the Sand Jonin. Kankuro was using a puppet to keep a bandit with 2 clubs in his hand busy while Temari was fighting a bandit with a broadsword. Temari was sending continuous blasts of air toward the bandit with the broadsword, but the man was only getting some scratches on his body. Temari was also using the closed fan to tackle the sword. Kankuro, on the other hand, was using a puppet with 6 hands, and the bandit in front of him was getting his attacks deflected continuously, which was stopping the bandit was getting close to Kankuro. The Sand Jonin was standing near Kankuro to ensure his safety. According to the plan, they weren't supposed to move much further until they regroup with Baki and Gaara. The least Shinobis must have reached closer to the core of the valley. If Gaara and Baki come soon, we can also go in the core and make a sizable contribution in taking them down. The Kazekage hopes that we can find the stolen merchandise, the Sand Jonin was thinking when he suddenly noticed something moving very fast toward Temari. Temari, watch out, he screamed, alerting Temari, who quickly waved the closed fan on her right side. The big black fan blocked the kunai and the cloaked man holding it just in time. Seeing that the attack had failed, the cloaked man jumped back. The Sand Jonin also quickly ran and stood beside Temari. The cloaked man looked at the kunai in his hand and thought, how could that Jonin detect me so early? He doesn't look like a sensor shinobi. The second cloaked man jumped beside him and said, Hiraku, how could you make such a stupid mistake? The cloaked man named Hiraku, whose attack had just failed, looked at his partner and said, Senior Akio, what are you talking about? I did a perfect sneak attack. That Jonin must be a sensor or something, or else how could a lowly Sand Shinobi fail my attack? The Sand Jonin, seeing Temari alright, signaled Kankuro to regroup with them. Kankuro used an attack and pushed the burly bandit with all 6 palms. Seeing the bandit back off, Kankuro called back the puppet and regrouped with Temari and the Sand Jonin. Both the bandits who were just fighting Temari and Kankuro saw this and then looked at Yami. They nodded at each other and came close to Yami. Fujio, how are you on this side of the valley? And who are these 2 cloaked men? The one with the broadsword asked. Before Yami could reply, the burly one said, doesn't matter who is who. I call dibs on that girl. I want her tonight. Listening to this, the other bandit hissed and said, in your dreams, Geizo, I will be the one to deflower her, he said while licking his lips. Yami had a deadpan expression listening to these two idiots lusting over Temari, who was just 12 to 13 years old. Listening to the banter of the bandits angered Hiraku, as he had already received a scolding from his senior, but the next sentence from his senior made him lower his head in embarrassment. "Hiraku, you idiot, you released a small burst of chakra before you accelerated from the branch. This will alarm even a Chunin. Bringing you guys here is turning out to be a mistake. 2 of your teammates died trying to fight alone with the copy ninja already, and now you do this," Akio said with a frown on his face. Hiraku had a wronged expression on his face because even he knew not to make such a basic mistake, but the only third person with them was a useless bandit who didn't even radiate a shred of chakra from his body the whole way. Little did Akio and Hiraku know that the one who released the burst of chakra was Yami himself. He did it to alert the Sand Jonin and possibly even Temari of their arrival. This was the least he could do without blowing his cover. Chapter 54, Killing Cloud Shinobis. "Are you alright, Temari? Are you hurt anywhere?" Kankuro asked. He was the eldest of the 3 siblings, and he cared about Temari the most because he had never been close to Gaara. "I am alright. Due to the senior's warning, I was able to block the attack, but who are these 2? Temari asked. "These people must be with Shinzo. They aren't bandits but shinobi. Seems like Yami was right that Shinzo isn't a traitor," the Sand Jonin said. Yami with the 2 bandits was completely ignored by both the other parties. Akio looked around and then said, "Hiraku, finish what you started by killing the girl. I will take care of the Jonin." Then he looked at Yami and the 2 bandits and said, "You 3 team up together and kill the kid who is using puppets." Lightning arcs started appearing around Akio and Hiraku. Hiraku rushed toward Temari, who was a bit on the defensive, and Akio clashed with the Sand Jonin. The fight was on equal footing, when they suddenly saw something fly past him and crash on the wall. Whatever it was, it flew just past Hiraku. He was fighting Temari at the time and was startled when something just whizzed by. He quickly moved back and looked in the direction the thing went in. He saw that it was a bandit who had crashed there. Hiraku looked at the 2 bandits still standing, who were Yami and the burly one, and said, "You idiots, even 3 of you can't take care of a kid." He then looked at the bandit who had just fallen and he was groaning. "You go and help those 2 finish the kid." Yami quickly said, "Sir, I will help him up." "Don't worry," he said, and went to pick the fallen bandit. Hiraku was standing close to the bandit looking at him in disdain. Temari and Kankuro also got a moment to breathe, so Temari said, "I don't think I can handle this cloud shinobi alone, Kankuro. You need to kill those bandits fast and help me out here." Kankuro nodded and the siblings looked at the bandits and Hiraku. They wanted to attack the already injured bandit and finish him off, but seeing that Hiraku was there and their senior couldn't provide them with backup, they could only watch. While Yami was helping the bandit up, Hiraku harumphed and said, "Senior is fighting with the Jonin. We have to kill these 2. Yami said in a cold tone, "I see 3 enemies." Hearing this made Hiraku frown, while even Temari and Kankuro were confused until everyone there heard a sound. "Kshhh. What?" Hiraku said as he looked down, and a black katana had stabbed his heart. Everyone's eyes widened seeing this scene. They couldn't understand why a bandit would kill the shinobi, and how could he? Someone who doesn't even have a shred of chakra. Before the bandits could react, Yami threw a kunai and stabbed the burly bandit's eye. "Arrrrrrr," the burly man screamed. "I should have coated the kunai with wind chakra," Yami thought, and pulled the sword from Hiraku's chest and turned toward the last bandit. "PL, please don't." The man started to beg, but with a swift motion Yami beheaded him. He then looked at the siblings, who were sweating profusely and were on guard. Yami simply lifted his sleeve and showed them the ribbon. "Why you, Yami? How did you?" Kankuro asked. Yami didn't say anything and simply winked. Temari was a bit angry at all this and said, "Why didn't you let us know that you were among the bandits?" "Why hide the ribbon?" she said while gnashing her teeth. "Because Akio could have noticed all 3 of your gazes on my ribbon, and I could save you in hard time. Let's go help your Jonin take care of Akio," Yami said, and rushed toward the fight happening between Akio and the Sand Jonin. "I need to launch a sneak attack on Akio. I can't afford to hold back in this case." Yami thought and deactivated his ankle weights. He wanted to use purple lightning as well, but he wasn't confident in controlling the speed. He may accidentally cut down the Sand Jonin with his purple lightning. After removing the weights, Yami felt light like a feather. He completely disappeared from Temari and Kankuro's vision. After a few seconds, he saw the Sand Jonin and Akio fighting. The Sand Jonin was on the defensive and he had a few wounds on his body. Yami knew that Akio could finish the fight with one decisive attack, so time was of the essence. Yami covered his sword with wind chakra and bolted toward Akio. The Sand Jonin and Akio both noticed the attack. Akio tried to block the sword slash with his kunai, but the next second he saw that the sword had cleanly cut his kunai and had left a deep diagonal wound on his chest. Blood gushed out from the wound and Akio groaned. The Sand Jonin was surprised seeing that one of the bandits attacked and even wounded Akio, and then his eye fell on the ribbon, making the Sand Jonin sigh in relief. "Yuu, who are you?" Akio said in his usual heavy voice. Yami smirked and undid his transformation and also switched on his Sharingan. Yami Uchiha. Uchiha? Even on the last leg this clan produces monsters. Akio said. Yami wanted to take the bodies, but Kankuro said, "Yami, you go and help Kakashi deal with Shinzo. We will take care of things here." The Sand Jonin and Temari also nodded. "TSK. I will have to find another way to get the corpses," Yami thought as he turned toward where Kakashi was and bolted. Kakashi was already fighting alone from the start, and now he may be wounded more than before. The only thing Yami could hope for was that guy had reached to back up Kakashi by now. Yami tried his best to keep the show of his strength under wraps in front of Kakashi and the Sand Shinobis. But now he may have to go all out. Chapter 55: Yami vs. Shinzo. Yami was heading toward the core of the valley at full speed. As he reached there, he saw that the whole place was destroyed. The big hall and the tents surrounding it were nowhere to be seen. They had all burned down. But it wasn't burned by fire, rather there were marks of scorches like lightning had fallen here. Yami started to move ahead where he could sense 3 people. After running in that direction, he saw Kakashi was a little pale, but he did not have many injuries. Kakashi is running low on chakra. These 2 opponents of his are high-level shinobi, so they can't be fooled by my transformation technique. I need to go fully prepared. Yami thought as he held 3 shurikens in each hand, and each of them was covered in wind chakra. Yami quickly threw them toward restricting the movements of Shinzo and the cloaked man who was getting close to Kakashi. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Yami spewed a fireball from his mouth. The fireball wasn't too big in size, but its heat was nothing to scoff at. Kakashi recognized who threw the fireball by just feeling the intense heat. Except that monster Yami, no one can make such a hot fireball, Kakashi thought. The cloaked men wanted to block or cut through the fireball, but when they felt the heat they understood that they should avoid it or they won't come out unscathed. Shinzo quickly used lightning armor and jumped back. The cloaked man wasn't so lucky. His entire right hand was burned to a crisp and even half of his face was melted. Udai. The cloaked man spat blood and kneeled on the ground. Shinzo was looking at him with shocked eyes. The cloaked man's appearance was enough to send a shiver through Shinzo's spine. Yami quickly jumped down and stood beside Kakashi. "Are you alright, Mr. Kakashi? You took your sweet time," Kakashi said in a lazy tone. "I had to take care of the 2 cloaked men Shinzo sent with me," Yami said with a smirk. "Oh, that was you? Good, which means except Shinzo no one is left. You take some medicine for now and recuperate, Mr. Kakashi. I will go have a chat with Shinzo," Yami said as he rushed toward Shinzo. While running he also activated his Sharingan. Seeing a kid kill his comrade and now rush at him made Shinzo angry. "Brat, how dare you!" he screamed, and his body was covered in blue lightning. This was something more than simple lightning armor. Chains made of lightning started forming on both of his hands. Shinzo flicked both his arms one by one and the chains behaved like a lightning whip. Wherever the whip touched was burned. Now this makes it harder for me to get in close range with him, Yami thought. He also had the idea of using Genjutsu directly, but Kakashi said lightning-style users get mini shocks every second which stimulate their body enough to break a Genjutsu. You can't use it until he has exhausted his chakra or his chakra points are sealed. Yami rushed toward Shinzo with his wind chakra-covered sword, and even Shinzo whipped the chains toward Yami to entrap Yami's arm or sword with the lightning chains. At the last second, Yami changed the direction of his sword and simply deflected the chains. This caused some lightning arcs to travel onto Yami's sword, but due to the wind chakra, those arcs couldn't reach the hilt and affect Yami in any way. Yami and Shinzo had a few more exchanges, but there was no conclusive result. Both were equally matched. Yami realized that no matter how much he practiced, in real-life situations only experience counts. Looks like purple lightning is the only way to cut Shinzo's chains. Yami thought as he activated his sword, and the purple veins started glowing. This made both Kakashi and Shinzo frown. They hadn't seen something like this before. Purple lightning started dancing around the sword, but this time something different happened as well. The edge of the sword had a purple line, as if the edge itself was made of lightning instead of metal. The chakra control training with this sword paid off. Yami thought as he rushed toward Shinzo, who made the same play and flicked his chains to catch Yami. This time the chains couldn't wrap around the sword, but they were cleanly cut as if real chains were made of mud. Seeing this, Yami had more confidence in defeating Shinzo. Now Kakashi shouted, "Don't let him recover from the shock." Yami nodded and continued rushing. Shinzo flicked the chains on his other hand as well, and the same thing happened. The chains were cut. Shinzo was getting desperate every passing second, so he poured a lot of lightning chakra into his hands, creating a lightning bracer that could act as a shield. Knowing that his sword can cut lightning like paper, Yami didn't hesitate to attack the bracer on Shinzo's arm. And as Yami thought, the sword cut the bracer and also half the arm. Arg! Shinzo screamed as blood gushed out from the half arm that Shinzo had. His eyes were bloodshot as he couldn't believe he was brought to such a sorry state by a 7-year-old. Yami didn't waste any time and used some lightning to boost his speed. He knew that Shinzo would eventually die of blood loss, so there was no need to use Genjutsu on him. He didn't want to waste time calling Neji and having him heal Shinzo. With his speed boosted by the purple lightning, Yami quickly passed through Shinzo. Shinzo, who was screaming and all, suddenly became quiet, and the next second a diagonal cut divided his body into 2 parts. I couldn't even see him use the sword, and he already cut Shinzo into 2 pieces. This kid will be creating waves in the next couple of years. Kakashi thought as he walked forward to Shinzo's dead body. He had recovered from his injuries. He looked at Yami and said, "You recover your chakra, till then I will mop up Shinzo and his allies." The Research and Development Department liked to see the bodies of shinobi from other villages. "We might learn a thing or two about lighting, and don't worry, you will get the lightning jutsus recovered from this mission," Kakashi said. "What about saving your life? What reward do I get for that?" Yami asked with an amused smile, making Kakashi scratch his head in embarrassment. "Fine, I will teach you a lighting jutsu as well." Kakashi sighed. Chapter 56, Mission Bandit Valley Finale. Yami went and sat under a tree to rest for a few minutes and recover his lost strength. He ate a ration pill and drank some water. He didn't have any injuries, as Shinzo was the only one he had fought head-on. Everyone else was either killed when he was posing as a bandit or by sneak attacks. After 10 minutes, Kakashi came back and said, "I have collected as many as I could. Hope Guy and the others have also moped up all the bodies and erased signs of battle here." Kakashi fired a green flare-up in the sky, which indicated that the mission was a success and everyone was supposed to come to the core. In a few minutes, Guy along with Neji and Lee came to Kakashi and Yami, and in the next few minutes, all 5 sand shinobis came there as well. "Sorry, Kakashi, we were caught up in collecting all the stolen goods," Guy said, to which Kakashi nodded. He knew that with Guy's help getting rid of the Cloud Shinobis would have been a piece of cake, but leaving Neji and Lee alone on their first Genin mission was not a risk worth taking. Hearing that the stolen goods were found, Baki and the Sand Jonin looked at each other and had smiles on their faces. Their village was in a lot of trouble due to the stolen goods, and now that the goods were found, they could trade freely again. Baki looked at Guy and said, I can't thank you enough for this. Those goods will help us gain many resources for our village. Gaara closed his eyes and sand started pouring out from his gourd. Seeing this made Lee and Neji tense. Seeing this, the Sand Jonin chuckled and said, Don't worry, he is spreading his sand in the surroundings to see whether we missed anything while doing the cleanup. We did this for our side of the valley, now let him do the same thing for the rest of the valley. Then we can leave this place. We need to reach the village before sunrise, which has 3 hours left. Can you tell me what did you find out about Shinzo and his people? Baki asked Kakashi. Everyone's eyes were currently on Kakashi, as who doesn't love to hear gossip. Kakashi looked around and said, Let's talk about that in the village. This isn't the right place or the time. Guy, Yami, give the scroll containing the bandit corpses to them for identification. This valley is closer to their village, so they might find out the identities faster than us. It's a good thing that I kept the corpses and their heads separately. Yami thought and took out a scroll from his pocket and tossed it toward Baki and said, This scroll contains all the heads of the bandits. I destroyed their corpses. Baki didn't find that odd because those people were simple bandits. They wouldn't have anything that a shinobi would crave. So there was no reason to doubt Yami's words. After 2 hours, everything was wrapped up and all 10 of the shinobis were rushing to the hidden sand. They had erased any existence of the bandits ever living in the Bandit Valley. If the Land of Lightning finds out that their shinobis were killed by Hidden Leaf and Hidden Sand shinobis, then they could retaliate, potentially leading to Fourth Great Ninja War. As they reached the village, instead of going in through the main gate, Baki took them through a heavily guarded underground tunnel. The tunnel's exit was the basement of the Kazekage building. As they exited the tunnel, they saw that 2 of the Kazekage's guards were standing there. Lord Baki, how did the mission go? One of the guards asked. The mission was a success. Where is the Kazekage? Baki asked. He is waiting for you all to arrive. You can go directly to the office. He said to bring all 10 of you, the guard said. Kazekage-sama wants to meet Gaara as well? And even the Leaf Genins? Baki frowned. He knew that Gaara was nothing more than a tool of the hidden sand, and except Temari and Kankuro, no one really cared about him. Let's go, Baki said and signaled Kakashi and Guy to follow. Come on kids, you will get to meet the Kazekage, Guy said in an enthusiastic tone. Baki and the 9 others followed the 2 guards to the Kazekage's room. Before the mission, Yami, Neji and Lee could only stay outside, but this time they too were invited in. As they entered, they saw a big oval table and a man with a red and white hat sitting at one end. The man had dark red hair and even his eyes were covered in red paint. He had a serious expression on his face. Kakashi, Guy, and his team were told to sit at the table by the guard. Raza looked at Kakashi and said, Can you tell me about your findings? Kakashi was a veteran at handling information, so he knew how much to tell and how to do it. He only mentioned the basic things like finding the stolen goods. Guy and Kakashi himself had found many other goods looted from small merchants as well, which was way more than the Sand Village's stolen goods. But Kakashi decided to keep that matter hidden. He told them that Shinzo was just a low-level spy sent here to monitor the situations, but he got greedy and looted on Sand Village trade route. The other Cloud Shinobis were sent by the Land of Lightning to punish Shinzo. He also handed over the scroll which contained the bandits' heads. The 4th Kazekage Raza listened to all this but stayed quiet for a few seconds. After that he said, I thank all 5 of you for coming here and helping us out. Looks like if we hadn't made a move tonight, Shinzo and the bandits would have been killed anyway. But the good thing is that we recovered all the stolen goods. Raza kept talking for a few more minutes and then they all left the Kazekage's office. Chapter 57 Village Politics. As they entered their hotel, Kakashi said, All of you don't discuss anything and go to sleep. We will be leaving first thing in the morning. Listening to the explanation Kakashi had given, Guy and his team had understood that many things were omitted and Kakashi wanted to stay it that way. Nobody asked any questions and entered their own rooms. Yami took a shower and ate some things he had brought from the Hidden Leaf. After that he fell asleep quickly. 6 hours later he was woken up by a knock on the door. He went and opened the door only to see Guy standing outside. "Guy-sensei, what is it? Are we leaving?" Yami asked. "Yes, Yami, we will be leaving in an hour. Get ready fast and then we can all race to our village and reach within 2 days," Guy said with renewed enthusiasm. After an hour the group of 5 Lee shinobis was walking toward the Kazekage building. Niji looked at Guy and asked, "Sensei, why are we going to meet the Kazekage again?" Guy looked at Kakashi, who subtly nodded, and then looked at Niji and said, "We are not meeting the Kazekage. We are using the tunnels we used last night. They don't want people here to know that Lee shinobis were here." Hearing this, Niji and Lee both nodded, but Yami chuckled and said, "But we did come from the main gate yesterday." Kakashi looked at Yami and smirked. "I guess they didn't think this through, huh? I guess I know why we are all rushing out of here," Yami said. "Why is that?" Lee asked in an innocent tone. He, just like Guy-sensei, was totally oblivious to all these political games, and Guy preferred to keep it so. "This isn't the right place nor the time," Yami said, to which Kakashi patted his shoulder. Knowing what to say and when is one of the skills that a shinobi must have. The group of 5 entered the Kazekage building and saw the Sand Jonin standing there. "I will escort you all out of the village," the Sand Jonin said. Everyone followed him to the tunnels and, just like last night, exited the village through a secret passage. He looked at all 5 of them and said, "I thank you all personally for helping us out of this predicament. It was good to be allied with the shinobis of the Hidden Leaf, even if it was just a mission." Yami and his group nodded and turned around to leave. They were running through the desert, and Yami could sense that some shinobi were hiding in different places. "We can't afford to stop here, or they might use this chance to silence us," Yami thought, and a similar thought crossed Kakashi's mind. After running for a few hours they came out of the desert and entered the forest. Except for Lee, everyone had a serious expression the whole way. Niji had also detected many shinobis in the desert because of his Byakugan. He wasn't sure whether they were for them or just to protect the surroundings of the hidden sand village. "It's been a few hours since we have entered deep forest and there is no one around us. I think we can rest here," Kakashi said, and everyone stopped and jumped down from the branches. Yami sat under a tree to drink water. Niji stood in front of Yami and asked, "Can you tell us now why we rushed out of the village?" Yami looked at Guy-sensei and Kakashi and both nodded, giving him their seal of approval. Lee also wanted to know what this whole thing was about, so he also came close and stood next to Niji. "The Kazekage never expected us to succeed in this mission, and he wanted us to fail so that he could gain some benefits from the Land of Wind Daimyo. But we completed the mission, and according to the complete report, the ones who contributed the most were people from our village. The Kazekage can't force his own people to write false reports contradicting ours, which is why there were people on the way here hiding who were waiting that we stop and they can attack us and then blame bandits who came back for revenge. They know we can't talk about this mission openly and risk going in direct conflict with the Land of Lightning," Yami said, making Lee and Niji's eyes widen. "But we helped them by getting their stolen goods back," Lee said. "The same goods which were supposed to be sent to us, and now they must be with Kakashi or Guy-sensei. So if they killed us they can take the goods for themselves and say that the bandits took them back," Yami said, making Lee nod in understanding. He was slowly getting to know how the shinobi world actually works. Niji thought for a few seconds and asked, "But aren't both villages allies? This mission should have brought us closer, right?" Yami chuckled and said, "Wrong. You need to understand the reason why the village hidden in the sand is the poorest. It is because the daimyo of the Land of Wind gives a majority of their missions to our village instead of the hidden sand, because we have many shinobis and a good environment so that we can do missions at lower prices. And now by doing this mission we have proved the daimyo right that the hidden leaf is much more reliable than the hidden sand." This caused the Kazekage to be angered more. "I don't know much, but the Kazekage isn't someone who cares about his people as much as his own reputation. Those 3 Genins were his own children, but you guys saw how he treated them. After the mission, when we all were called, even his own children were shocked. And he didn't praise them one bit." Niji and Lee were slowly starting to feel the perks of being born in the Hidden Leaf village. Little did they know that the waters of the Hidden Leaf were way muddier than the hidden sand. But the old man managed to keep everyone in the false illusion that everything is roses and rainbows. Chapter 58 Return and Report. After discussing all this, everyone continued their journey toward the hidden leaf. In between they did stop to eat and rest for a couple of times, but Niji and Lee were mostly quiet. The complicated world was like a spider web for them, and they understood that only strength is not the only thing that matters. After traveling for 2 days, the group of 5 reached the Hidden Leaf Village. "Oh, our newest Genin squad is back from a mission," a leaf shinobi with tape on his nose said while standing at the gates. His job was to keep a record of everyone who enters and exits the village. "Hey Kotetsu, we just came back from a week-long mission," Guy said. Kakashi turned back to look at the 3 Genins and said, "You 3 go home and rest. Me and Guy will report to Hokage-sama. Yami, I will come tomorrow morning for our ninjutsu practice." Guy looked at his team and said, "Team Guy, congrats for a successful mission. Take tomorrow day off, and the day after that we will meet at the mission assignment building at 12. The 3 Genins nodded and left to go home. As Yami passed close to the gates of the Uchiha compound, he sensed 3 people's chakra. Looks like the Umbu really did stay here on Hiruzen's orders, Yami thought as he walked to his home. As he reached home, he saw that Sasuke wasn't home. He went to his room and sat on his bed with a frown on his face. What the hell went wrong? Why didn't Big Brother Itachi make any move? Even though he isn't the type of person who comes face to face, but his partner Kisame is. I had expected Yuri to leak matters of our arrival to Sasori and then he would mention it to Itachi, but seems like things didn't go as planned. I need to find another way to meet him, Yami thought. Hokage Building. In the office of the 3rd Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, 4 people were looking at each other. Hiruzen was sitting on the Hokage chair reading some papers while Shikaku Nara was standing beside him with a file in hand. In front of them, Kakashi was sitting by the window while Guy was standing leaning against the wall. Hiruzen kept the papers aside and then looked at Kakashi and Guy and said, "Sorry to make you guys wait, so tell me, how did the mission go?" Guy and Kakashi narrated the entire mission from start to end without skipping anything. Kakashi passed some scrolls to Shikaku which contained the goods that Hidden Sand was trading with the Hidden Leaf. The extra goods that were found in the bandits' hideout. A scroll containing the corpses of all the Land of Lightning shinobis. In the end, Kakashi even told Hiruzen about the sand shinobis lying in wait around the desert. Hiruzen listened to all this with a serious expression on his face. Shikaku was also in his thoughts, and after a few seconds, he said, "Hokage-sama, we won the mission but most probably lost the alliance. Due to this mission, the Land of Wind Daimyo will give us more missions which will create more problems for the Hidden Sand. They can't openly retaliate, but they can still cause us problems." Hiruzen nodded and said, "Kazekage Raza wanted our shinobis to fail the mission, and still he sent all 3 of his kids to this mission. That man can stoop to any level. Our kids performed exceptionally in this mission." Shikaku nodded and said, "Yes, Hokage-sama, especially Yami's performance was shockingly good. To be able to infiltrate so seamlessly and then carry out such assassinations, and that too as your first outside Genin mission, is really remarkable. He was also able to take down many Land of Lightning shinobis, including Shinzo. Though we can't give him any merits openly for this mission, lightning jutsus could be a good prize." Kakashi looked at Shikaku and said, "Tomorrow I will teach him a lightning jutsu made by me and known only by me. After a few days, we can give him the 2 lightning jutsus we found on the Land of Lightning shinobis." Hiruzen nodded and said, "We will do it like that. Gotta make sure to kick the practice of Niji and Lee into top gear. I don't want them to hold Yami back. Niji's contributions were the least in this mission, but his Byakugan is invaluable, so make sure to tell him to practice that in his clan. If there isn't anything else, you both can leave." Guy nodded to Hiruzen's instructions, and he himself had the same thoughts. He knew that Yami's skills were a league above Niji and Lee, but after this mission, it was clear that they were nowhere near Yami's skill level. Yami completed this mission way better than even a veteran Chunin could. As Guy was about to leave with Kakashi, Kakashi said, "Hokage-sama, the way Yami handled himself in this mission, it looked like he would be better suited for Umbu work. But he is too young to go through all that and has already been through enough tragedy. I would like to teach him some Umbu things if you may allow. Kakashi, you know that the secrets of Umbu should stay inside the Umbu. Do you have any solution for this? Shikaku asked. But instead was Kakashi. It was Guy who replied, It'll take time for me to bring Neji and Lee up to Yami's standards, and this year Kakashi doesn't have a Genin squad of his own. So I have no issue if Kakashi and Yami do some missions outside the village. Every once a while I can have Yami complete D and C rank missions with his team. Hiruzen quickly looked up and said, Kakashi, I think that this is the best idea. Yami might gain skills and experience through these missions way more than any training sessions. I will give you my answer in a day or two, Hokage-sama. Kakashi thought as he and Guy left Hiruzen's office. Chapter 59 Chidori Training Part 1. While Yami was in his room thinking why his elder brother hadn't tried to contact him, sound of footsteps was heard outside. Yami came out of his room and saw Sasuke was at the door removing his shoes and his tools. As soon as Sasuke saw his younger brother at the door, a smile appeared on his face. Why you are here? When did you come back from the mission? Sasuke asked. Yami walked in the hall and sat down at the table and said, just half an hour ago. I was about to go sleep. How are you so early from academy today? Sasuke also sat at the table in front of him and smirked. Today was sparring matches between his classmates. I came first as always. Yami chuckled and said, you are going to make your younger brother proud. I have practiced a lot the past week. No one in my class except Naruto can hold a candle to me. Looks like him sparring with Naruto on a regular basis has increased Naruto's strength as compared to his strength in the canon. Yami was thinking when Sasuke said, so tell me about your mission? Why did it take so long? Was it an A rank? Yami gave Sasuke a deadpan expression and said, why would the village give a Genin team in a rank mission? Did you exchange your strength for that brain of yours? Sasuke responded by saying, you are being awfully chatty today. Chatting with those bandits to remain undercover really made me a little chatty. Yami thought with an embarrassed expression. Our mission was a simple C-rank bandit extermination mission. It took so much time because it was at the border of the Land of Fire. Yami said. This is the mission Guy had told his 3 Genins to tell if asked by anyone. Mostly it was meant for Neji, as the clan head will surely want the report of the mission. After talking for a few more minutes, Yami went back to his room to rest. He knew tomorrow Kakashi was going to teach him some lightning jutsu and he wanted to be at his best condition while doing it. This mission had made Yami realize that having a good level of lightning armor can help in easily breaking Yami's Genjutsu. He never thought that small shocks can also interrupt the chakra flow in the person's body, making them almost immune to Yami's Genjutsu. The more Yami's age will increase, the more powerful his elements will become, including his yin and yang, and the more powerful his Genjutsu will be. Next morning, 6:30 a.m., Yami was sitting in the hall having some instant ramen for breakfast. Kakashi would be coming any minute now. Yesterday night Yami had tried to create a lightning armor of his own but ended up electrocuting himself a dozen times. The instability of the lightning element was too much of a variable in controlling anything made of lightning. Yami guessed that maybe this is the reason that many shinobis from the Land of Lightning pay so much attention to physical strength, so that their body can survive the constant shocks from the lightning element. While Yami was in a daze thinking about all this, he finished the breakfast in front of him. He cleaned up everything and left the house. He came to the remote training ground where he trained with Kakashi the last time. After waiting for a few minutes, he sensed someone coming. He looked back and it was Kakashi, but this time his clothes were a little different. Instead of the common flak jacket, this time he was wearing a white gown. Isn't this the type of clothes he used to wear when he was Hokage in the canon? Yami thought. What's with this wardrobe change all of a sudden? You found someone? Yami asked. Kakashi's eyes twitched listening to Yami teasing him. We haven't known each other for so long that you will know all the types of clothes I wear. And the reason I wore this today is that I wanted to teach you something different. And what would that be? Are you giving me the scrolls found on the Cloud Shinobi's corpses? Yami asked with a little excitement that didn't go unnoticed in Kakashi's eyes. That will happen after 2 to 3 days, as everything is being investigated and settled. I have already talked to Hokage-sama about it. Yami shrugged as it was the proper procedure and it was nothing out of the ordinary. He asked, then what are you going to teach me? Chidori, Kakashi said with a proud tone. Yami made an ugly expression and said, that noisy jutsu? Kakashi froze hearing this and said, Brad, do you want to learn or not? It is a jutsu created by me and no one has learned it. You have no idea how many people have fallen prey to it. Yami chuckled and said, just kidding, Mr. Kakashi. I would love to learn Chidori. So let's start, shall we? Kakashi started explaining Yami about his understanding of the lightning element. He didn't go into much depth, but just enough for Yami to understand the entire formation of Chidori. Kakashi was hoping that once Yami masters Chidori, he can improve it to become more powerful. Yami, you need to remember lightning isn't about just destruction or shocking your opponent. The main aim is penetration. So when you use Chidori, you will need to grind your lightning chakra against each other just like you use wind chakra on your sword. Kakashi said. Then he formed a Chidori in his left hand and approached a boulder. He slammed the Chidori on the boulder, making a straight hole through it. See this? If this was wind chakra, then the whole boulder would have crushed, but lightning is all about concentrating everything at one point like a spearhead and increasing the penetration. Remember not to let your own hand get scarred in the process, or else you might permanently damage some nerves. Chapter 60 Chidori Training Part 2. Yami practiced Chidori with Kakashi for a few hours. From time to time Kakashi would give him some pointers on how to stabilize it. Sometimes the ball of electricity would become unstable and burst, or sometimes it would misfire and shock Yami. Why is it going off on his own? Why doesn't it stay in my hand even when I stabilize it? Yami asked. Kakashi responded by saying, that's because you insert too much chakra in it. I observed Kakashi use Chidori with my Sharingan and even my chakra output was stable. Seems like the density of my chakra is becoming the problem. I will need to find a solution to it myself. Yami thought. Yami lowered his chakra output and after a few tries, he noticed that the Chidori ball was small but it was a lot brighter. Kakashi was also a little surprised seeing this. He thought that Yami had compressed the Chidori to make it stronger, but he didn't say anything because he saw that the misfire problem Yami was facing was gone. Seems like you are getting the hang of it, Kakashi said. It's just a matter of time until I can master it. By the way, did you upgrade it? Yami asked. He wanted to know if Kakashi had started developing Raikiri. I am thinking about it, but do you have any ideas? I wonder if you can find a way to obtain enough control over lightning chakra to create a straight stream of lightning like a beam. Even if it is for a short time, such a ranged attack could one-shot an enemy, and the speed and penetration power of it would be unlike any other jutsu ever seen. Hearing this, Kakashi fell into thought. What he is saying does make sense. A concentrated stream of lightning chakra. Even if it lasts for 1.5 to 2 seconds, the damage would be phenomenal. I will start working on this from today. Yami will be able to use Chidori in a day or two without my supervision. Kakashi looked at Yami, who was applying some ointment to the scars on his hand, and said, don't overdo your practice. Is there anything else you want to practice, or else I can leave? Yami looked at Kakashi and was about to nod when he had thought this mission could have been easier if I had a summon. The scroll I have doesn't need his help at all, as I alone will be reverse summoned. I was thinking to have Sasuke stay when I make the contract, but if something really happens and I come back injured or on the doors of death, then Sasuke wouldn't be of any help. My summon isn't something that I plan to keep a secret. It's a bat for God's sake and not a dragon. Can you help me out with something? Kakashi frowned a little hearing this question. He understood that what Yami was going to ask will be unusual. Depends on what you need help with? Kakashi responded. A summon scroll. To be specific, it's a summoning scroll of bats. Bats? I have never heard of anyone having bats as a summon. I do remember Itachi had crows, but bats, nope. No one in the 5 villages has them as summon animals. And why do you need my help with? Kakashi said. Getting a summoning scroll was the hard part, and once you get it, then signing it wasn't too hard and it totally depended on the person who wanted to sign it, so Kakashi was confused as to why Yami needed his help in this. While going to the hidden sand, I found a man who sold me 2 scrolls. One of them is the summoning scroll of this bat. The scroll looked creepy, so I asked him about it, but he said he bought it and never used it. The reason I need your help is that he said whoever tried to sign a contract would get reverse summoned and then afterward their corpse would appear. Kakashi's eyes widened after hearing this. He was thinking whether the kid standing in front of him was brave or simply idiotic. Getting reverse summoned was the biggest red flag, and he wants to try even when he knows what happened to the people that tried before him? Kakashi was having a hard time believing what he had just heard. Why do you have a death wish? Kakashi asked with a fake smile, and Yami said, because I want to know what the place is that they all get reverse summoned to. Are you the least bit curious about it? Why do everyone who go in there die, and why hasn't there been a bat summoner ever? Don't you want to know the answers to these questions? Yami asked in an excited tone. This is the first time I have seen him so excited and behaving like his own age. Kakashi thought, and a smile automatically appeared on his lips as he said, I am curious, but I am not willing to bet my life on it. Come on, I am the one who will be going. You just need to make sure that if I come back injured, then I get medical attention. Yami said. And what if you come back dead? Kakashi asked with a deadpan expression. Well, that sounds like a personal problem. A dead person like me has no right to interfere. Yami chuckled. Don't worry, I will be fine. All the people who tried to sign the contract with all nobodies. None of them had any qualifications or skill as I do. Yami said in a proud tone. After a lot more convincing, Kakashi agreed to stay and watch while Yami is reverse summoned. Yami took out the scroll with dried blood all over it and opened it. There were many blood stains on the inside as well. He laid out the open scroll on the ground and wrote his name in the contract. That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 3. Peace.